Welcome, everyone, to the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. I'm your host, DJ, and with me here, as always, is our NHL analyst and expert, the grumpy old man. They say there is no shame in his game because he is always the same.
That's me.
Grumpy, how are you this fine evening? Saturday evening, man. Oh, man, it's been forever since we've had an Islander game.
Yeah, I'm watching other teams play, and honestly, it's not the same. I can be a little bit more objective, though, honestly.
What do you mean?
I'm rooting for the Islanders so hard sometimes I'm not objective to their poor play.
Fair enough, Grumpy. Fair enough. I'll tell you, Islanders' first game back this upcoming Thursday could not come soon enough. Grumpy old man. Hasn't been a lot of news regarding Islanders since the last time we've podcasted on Wednesday. That being said, Barry Trotz returned back to practice today, Grump.
Well, we knew he'd be back, so Lane Lambert had a little fun in the sun there for a couple of games, and now it's back to same old, same old. I'll be interested to see how we line up on Thursday night.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all waiting for. Are we going to return back? And again, we talked about that ad nauseum on the last podcast. Are we going to return back to the way we had things currently constituted before COVID kind of started to force adjustments into our lineup? Or are we going to rule with the hot hands? You know, one or the other. What ideology are we going to take? I think Thursday is going to be very telling in that manner. Yes. Yeah,
without a doubt. So, we're going to see. We're going to see. I'm interested, honestly. Everyone knows the way I feel. Play the better players. Just happen to also be the younger guys. Let's see what Barry does. Let's see if Kyle Palmieri is in the lineup Thursday night. He was the one guy singled out, not guaranteed to have a spot or to start. So let's see what actually happens.
Absolutely, Grump. But before we get too deep in today's podcast, remember, this is a twice-a-week Islander podcast on Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and on Saturdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And to make sure you don't miss out on any of the action, make sure you subscribe on YouTube, like on Facebook, and follow on Twitter. And also, if the Islanders are playing a game, as long as they're not playing on Thursday or on Sunday, we're going to be covering that game live. We're going to be doing a live watch along with you guys. You guys don't miss out on any of the action. If you don't get the game or want to listen to a little bit of an alternate viewpoint during your Islanders games, you've got that. You got that available for you also, Grump.
And, I'm excited.
Yes, you seem very excited, Grump. You said, what the hell's up with that sweatshirt, by the way? It's all like pop collary, and look at that, Grump.
I tell you, I'm cool.
You look like one of those 80s vampires, or like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, maybe.
What do you know about anything?
I don't know. I just feel like Buffy the Vampire Slayer used to wear a pop collar because that's what people did in the 80s.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer was a girl,
Well,
first of
there you
all.
go.
So I don't think you know as usual, you don't know what you're talking about, particularly when it comes to the entertainment industry.
Oh, good gracious, Grump. The only reason we don't cover Islander games on Thursdays and Sundays is because we have another podcast called TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. That's a podcast where we just talk sports and shoot the shit. We cover live sporting events, like we'll be covering the college football playoffs or the college football championship game on Monday, and all the other types of live playoff and all those other live big game sporting events. We're trying to entering to some UFC fights and everything of that nature. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy when we do the live watch alongs with the game, would you like to have that in a podcast format? Usually we offer it only on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Would you like to listen to that in a podcast format on your way to work if you just want some funny commentary? If you say yes, I'll make sure I upload it. If people say no, we only watch it live, that's also fine.
Okay.
I
don't know anything about anything that you do, so.
I know, Grumpy. Trust me. I know. Also today, we're going to be having the live call-in feature on the show, so we're going to bring that around. We haven't done that in a few Saturdays in a row, but we're going to be bringing that back today, Grumpy. So
another exciting change for today.
Yes, absolutely, Grump. I want to go ahead and bring up an idea that was introduced by Arthur Staple on the what has he got? No Sleep Till Belmont podcast. Isn't it funny that he still does the Islanders podcast? Probably because he's contractually bound to do it, even though he covers only the Rangers at the moment.
Well, that's the name of his show, so he's not going to change the name of his show. Does he talk Islanders? Does he talk Rangers? Does he talk both? Does he talk Devils?
No. No Sleep Till Belmont. It's all Islanders. But I'm talking about the way he writes. Now, usually he's just writing and covering the Ranger games. He covers, I'm sure, some Islander games here and there, but it's not at the same level as what he's taking over and ramping up for the Rangers. I just always think it's funny that he's still doing the Islander podcast because I'm sure he's contractually bound to do it for the remainder of this year.
Yeah, I don't know, but it could be just the name thing also. It's not like you're not going to change your podcast name if people. Well, I don't know if anyone listens to him or not, but let's say a few people do.
People listen to the podcast.
Okay, well, let's say that he goes to okay, well, let me listen to the No Sleep Till Belmont podcast, and you're not getting Islanders anymore. It's like, because if you're not doing the Islanders, maybe he's going to talk at rough shot on the Rangers next year. I don't know. I think he'll probably change the name.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. He's going to do the No Sleep Till Belmont podcast until probably next year, where he will no longer be contractually obligated. Therefore, he's going to start a new podcast probably about the Rangers, which is the team he's covering. That's what I'm saying, Grump.
Okay, that's fine.
I like your shirt, by the way, Grump. You like mine? I got this picture of this grumpy old man on mine, the Grumpy's Groupies.
I know.
I finally have my Grumpy's Groupies merchandise in.
Well, whoever the person on the front of shirt, I'm sure that he appreciates. Nice. Look at the back there.
You like the fans of Grumpy's Groupies, Grump? I can't even hear you, but I assume you do.
Yes, Grumpy's Groupies. What I was trying to say is that the person on the front of shirt probably appreciates you wearing it because it makes him look even better. Like you're the Duff.
Oh, shit. Well, you know what? I'm never wearing this shirt again. It's funny. We came to the podcast wearing the same shirt, and I felt like if you were like a high school girl, you're like, oh, my God, she's got the same outfit as me. I'm like, I've got to change. So had to have a quick wardrobe change. That being said, Grump, I want to bring up this idea. It was talked about on Arthur Staples' podcast, and people in the Islanders community they seem to agree somewhat with this ideology and with this potential move. So I'm going to pop it up on screen here for you, Grump, and I'll read it live there for the listeners of the show. And it says, I'll pull that up. Via the No Sleep Till Belmont, Arthur Staples suggests that the Islanders are to make an offer, if they are to make an offer for a cost-controlled defenseman like Jacob Chychrun, it will likely cost something like Anthony Beauvillier, Atu Ratu, Robin Salo, and this year's first-round pick. He goes on to say that this is a move that they should make, and I tend to agree.
Now, we did speak on this somewhat on Wednesday night.
Well, no, we spoke to this on Thursday evening on the TJ and the Grumpy Old Man podcast. Not on our Islander podcast, though.
Okay, I thought we did speak about that
No.
on the Islander podcast. Okay, well, then I can pretty much say anything I want because, well, I don't think everyone who listens to
yes, we got
TJ and the Grumpy Old Man or, whatever. So here we go. I think myself, I don't understand why we would even consider a move like that, honestly. You want to trade Anthony Beauvillier, and let's say, okay, he'd be a first-line forward on Arizona, right? To Ratu, who is probably our top-rated offensive prospect in the minors. Robin Salo, who's already made the team. He's 25 years old, and you got to figure that he'll be a full-time starter next year. And then a first-round pick for Jacob Chitrin. And Jacob Chitrin is a good player, no doubt about it. Not having a good year this year. I think he's got 7 points and is a minus 27 as of, I think, Thursday. I just don't understand the thought process that goes into that move, honestly. It's not enough, in my opinion, not enough to put us over the top and make us playoff contenders. I wonder why you would want to do something like that.
Yes. So, and I share a lot of the same sentiments with you, Grumpy Man. Think about it like this. We're giving up Anthony Beauvillier, who is at the lowest point of trade value in his career. He's had a very, very bad year this year. So what we're going to do essentially is we're going to trade Anthony Beauvillier is still young. Was he 24 years old? No matter where he is across the NHL, it doesn't matter if he was in Tampa, this guy's a top 9 forward. He bounces and oscillates between a second line left wing and a third line left wing, depending on what team he's on. No matter what, this guy's a top 9 forward, a younger top 9 forward that is cost controlled also. A guy who's been streaky in nature. And if you're playing in a more upbeat, a more offensive-minded system, maybe he's going to produce more in the point department. That being said, you're going to trade at his lowest point. That's never any good business advice. Then you're going to give up Aatu Ratu, the guy who's on a point-a-game stretch in the Finnish Elite League at 19 years old. The guy who, again, when he was playing for Karpat, struggled, but as soon as he goes to Jokerit, he's able to go ahead and get into the system that's more tailor-made to him. He's got, 14 points in 14 games in a Finnish Elite League at 19 years old. The guy who impressed this year for us in spring training. The guy who looks like he really could be a guy who produces in a top 6 role. Again, he's a younger guy, but these are definitely our top offensive prospect or top forward by a country mile. You're also going to give up Robin Salo. The guy's 23 years old, Grumpy Old Man, a defenseman who is our best defensive prospect by a country mile. Maybe you could have argued before the season Samuel Bolduc is close to him, but what we've seen out of Samuel Bolduc in the A this year has not been much. So I'd say Robin Salo is our best defensive prospect at the moment. And then this is the one that drives me freaking berserk. You would give up a top, in all likelihood, it's going to be a lottery selection in the deepest draft, which is going to be this year's upcoming draft that there has been in over a decade. So you're going to give up a lottery pick. You don't even know how deep it's going to be. Maybe you're going to be 15. Maybe you'll be closer to 10. Maybe you'll be closer to 9 or 8 or 7. Right now in the standings, we're top 10 pick. So you're going to give up, a top 10, top 15 selection in this year's draft, which is an unbelievably deep draft class. The deepest draft class in over a decade. So you give up a top 9 forward, which you would be selling at his lowest point, your top offensive prospect who's really performed this season, your top defensive prospect who's already playing a little bit in the NHL, and a first-round pick for Jacob Chitrin. Again, who's having a bad, not as great of a season for the Arizona Coyotes as he would like.
And I always say, on bad teams, someone has to score points. And before this year, it was Chitrin. He's looked good. All right, no denying it. Is he a top 4 defenseman? Absolutely. Why would you want to gut whatever youth you have on this team to add Jacob Chitrin?
And Chitrin's young. Chitrin's young. Let's be honest about it. Chitrin is young.
Okay, 24, right? He is young, but you're gutting all the youth in your system. For what reason? Like I said, for me, with the way the depth of this draft is supposed to have, I'm moving as many veterans as I can to try to pick up more picks. I'm not looking to get rid of picks. We're not making the playoffs this year, just not happening. So don't double down on bad. Don't do it.
Well, people are even trying to say, okay, this provides you a defenseman, so our defense will be set rock solid for the next few years coming up because now there's no there we're getting rid of a Robin Sala, but we're cementing in the fact that Jacob Chitrin can really do the job. Now we've got a top four on defense that's cemented in. In that process, though, you were trading away. Again, albeit he has not performed this year, you're trading away a top nine forward who usually is one of the guys who produces on offense for you. You're trading away your best young offensive talent and prospect, best young forward, and giving away the first round pick. Yikes. So you're doubling down on defense and you're losing more offensive pop in the future, which is a thing your team desperately needs.
Yeah. I mean, and here's the thing. If Pavilier goes to Arizona, he's probably going to start scoring. Why? Because if you to play in this system, I've said it before, you have to limit your offensive productivity to fit into the defensive system. And you look at Chitrin, he's a minus 27. I don't know how much he's playing defense out there, but he's the worst plus minus on their team by a country mile.
Do you want to get my boy Phil's facts? Our boy Phil's facts, friend of the podcast, Grumpy. He happened to post this. He said, only if Chitrin was playing on whatever team Shane Gostisbehere plays for, he wouldn't be having such an awful season. Well, Grumpy, you'll be able to see here Jacob Chitrin, again, a minus 29 at this point, 2 goals, 5 assists at the mark, 7 points. Shane Gostisbehere for the Arizona Coyotes, 6 goals, 17 assists, 23 points, and a minus 7. Shane Gostisbehere has better, and he's looked good from everything I've heard and read about him. I admittedly, I do not watch a lot of Arizona Coyote games, but from all I've heard, Shane Gostisbehere has really had a bounce back season for the Arizona Coyotes.
And so that kind of proves my point, right? Yeah, Chitrin was putting up points because they have no talent in Arizona. All of a sudden, Gostisbehere comes in this year, and all of a sudden, he's their highest point producing defenseman. And he's actually better on the defensive end as well. So, I'm not saying Chitrin's a bad player. I'm definitely not. But I'm not giving up the farm for him. He doesn't move the needle for us. That's the whole thing. He does not move the needle. He does not make us a Stanley Cup contender. You have to start thinking about the future a little bit here, people. I'm going to tell you right now.
I agree with that. I 110% agree with that, Grump. But to see the ideology out there for people again that still are sunk in saying, "Hey, we need to improve the defense. If we're able to improve the defense, we've got better outlet passes at the zone. We can headman the puck. We can join in with the offensive rush when we've got a more competent defense, offensive-minded defenseman." To think that that's going to be the elixir and the ailment to all of our problems, I'm sorry, it's not.
I honestly, I don't know how people come up with these trade scenarios. Are they oblivious to what's actually been happening this year? How the team just seems lethargic and dead out there most nights when the veterans are out there. Are we not watching that? The only time we have any jump is when we incorporate the younger players into the lineup. I just don't know what Chitrin does to make us better. That's my whole thing. I don't see what he does to make us better in the long run. You have Noah Dobson, who's already stepped up as a puck-moving defenseman. Why? Because of all the injuries and the COVID. He's had to. And given a little bit of rope, look at how he's produced. The same thing with Bellows and Wahlstrom and all the other young players. Jarnac, Richard Panik in his short amount of time looked really good out there. Well, no, he looked okay when he played. Certainly just as good as all the guys who make $5 million a year have looked.
Okay. That's fair. I wouldn't say look good. Like I was really impressed with what I saw with Austin Czarnak. That's one of those players when you kind of thought he was down this year. Okay, he's a guy that we just call upon at absolute worst case scenario. But he, in a short time and a short sample size, showed that he's more than competent on the ice. I'm just saying, we've got a lot of guys, when healthy, down there in the A. Even Cole Bardreau shows when he's given a chance, he's competent on the ice. And for Casey, especially when I see with Austin Czarnak, tell me that Casey and Czarnak couldn't be somewhat of on an equal playing field regarding production. And we pay one, like 3 or 4 times as much as the other. What does Casey get paid? $2.5 million, and we're paying Czarnak league minimum, like $750K or whatever it is.
Yeah, and he's for another 5 years after this one. Think again. I don't. Do we want to get into we keep on repeating the same mistakes over and over again?
No,
or is it too early today?
It's too early today. I wanted to bring this up too. Speaking about this, now, Grump, people are saying, well, Jacob Chicherin is a bona fide top 4 defenseman. He's offensive minded. That's really going to help our team. And the asking price might be a lot, but he's a guy who's got cost certainty, and he's a guy that we know can perform. He's done so the last few years in Arizona. I know this year hasn't been as stellar for him, but he's performed in the past. And I seem to remember, Grumpy Old Man, there once was a defenseman named Devon Taves, as to which I would argue at the time period was probably a better defensive player and a better defensive prospect in our system that we gave up for a fraction of the cost. We only received 2 second-round picks for a guy that is now on over a point-a-game stretch for the Colorado Avalanche. He never would have produced those type of numbers with us just because of the system we run, but we always knew based off of the skill set he had, he would thrive for a team like Colorado. He'd thrive for a team like Tampa. He would be putting up a massive amount of points. He would thrive for a team like Edmonton, and we gave Devon Taves up because we were in a cap crunch, a little bit of a quote-unquote cap crunch. We gave him up for 2 second-round picks, and then he proceeds to sign a 4-year, was it $4.2 million deal?
And we
He
decided
got the cap certainty too.
And we decided to keep Nick Leddy, who made more money than Devon Taves made, and even after signing the contract extension, made $1 million a year more than Devon Taves did, a little bit more than that actually. But why? Because Barry Trotz liked Nick Leddy. And he didn't like Devon Taves. Didn't like the fact that sometimes he wasn't in a position. I don't care. It's about, I don't care. I'm just not into keeping guys in their 30s just because they played in the league for 12 years. I'm just not. I'd much rather, get on the horse that has a longer future. I don't understand why we do the things we do. Actually, I do understand why. I just don't agree with it. Let's just put it that way.
I was about to say, you understand why. I think everybody understands why. You just don't agree with it, as simple as that. And that's where the ideology comes in. But yeah, man, oh man.
For me, like I said, it's just incredibly frustrating. And I hear, well, you couldn't have got 2 second-round picks for Devon Taves. Who cares? He's the better player. Why do you want to trade better players who are younger and have a lower cost to keep a guy who had 1 year left on his contract? Why would you do that? It's just stupid. It's just so dumb. Like I said, we were ripping Nick Leddy when he was here, particularly at the end.
And I was for certain.
Right, for certain. And you look in Detroit, he's basically the same player in Detroit. He's got a terrible plus minus, means, when he's on the ice, they're not playing defense. And, he's put up some points. Big deal. Did we really miss Nick Leddy? Maybe you could say we miss Leddy only because he was replaced with Zdeno Chara, who's 44 years old. That's the only reason why we miss Nick Leddy. The only reason.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Grumpy. It's what makes it stick out, just because, again, the replacement we had was Chara. If we
it was
had
unnecessary. But you make your bed. When you make dumb moves like that, it has a domino effect, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like, we were in cap trouble when we had to trade Taves. Well, you didn't have to trade Taves. There are other guys on this team you could have moved. You chose to move the young guy. Why? Because people around the league think highly on players like that. And you got 2 second-round picks? Really? I mean, you traded for 30-year-old Kyle Palmieri, Travis Zajac, and gave up a first, a fourth, and 2 prospects, right?
No, I think it was just the first and a fourth.
No, and 2 prospects also. Yes, absolutely was. You can look that up while I go on to the next point. And then for JG Pajot, a third-line center, who I love, you trade a first, a second, and if we would have won a cup, a third for a third-line center. I mean, these other teams just see Lou Lamoriello coming. Whatever reputation he used to have for being a great wheeler and dealer, that's gone. That's absolutely gone now.
Yes, they did include their prospects, AJ Greer and Mason Jobst.
Thank you.
And
I'm not saying they're
also worth saying that those prospects are career ECHL, AHL guys.
Yeah, I'm not going to say they're going to turn into anything, but we also gave them a couple of prospects. I mean, so it's like, why? Why do we keep overpaying and everyone else underpays whenever they make a deal with us? It's poor general managership.
Now, I want to bring up, and I'm kind of hesitant to show you this quote, just because I know you've been very calm. We've had a very, very good start to the show. I almost don't want to show you this because I feel like it's going to trigger you. But I need you, as I'm showing this on screen, Grumpy, I need deep breaths. I need you to enter some sort of happy place. I need you to imagine back in the 80s when the Islanders are winning 4 cups in a row. That's what I need you to do. Deep breaths in, deep breaths out, Grumpy. That's what I need. Do you go to yoga? Have you started doing yoga with like a New Year's resolution or anything like that? I need you to practice on your yoga breaths. Exactly. So, and again, maybe you won't get triggered by this, but I feel like you would. You've got here Josh Bailey was saying about, okay, deep breaths, deep breaths, Grumpy old man, deep breaths. He said on the talent of the group and the competitive fight for playing time, he said, I think it's a good problem to have. It's good to have that competition. Now, let me ask you this. When you see a quote like that from Josh Bailey, do you think there's ever a chance if Josh Bailey were to perform poorly that he would be benched, let's say, for 4, 5, 6, 10 games in a row? Do you think that's ever in the cards, or do you think this is a comment being made by a guy who says, oh, yeah, in essence, competition is good from a guy that has absolutely no shot of ever sitting?
Here's the thing. Josh Bailey should have been benched probably the last 2 or 3 years he's played. Should have been riding the pine because he's just underwhelming. It's the total antithesis of what this team is all about. There is no competition for spots. Never has been. And under Barry Trotz, I highly doubt it there ever will be. We'll see Thursday night. If he goes back to the same old, you've seen all you need to see. And you want to see me explode? Come back next Saturday night. Because that's exactly what's going to happen.
Will that change your opinion on Barry Trotz of a coach? I mean, like we already know, right? Trotz leans towards the old guys. This is the first time that we've ever seen with Barry and his history with the Islanders that he and the organization, I won't say just him because Lane Lambert was also involved with this over the time period of COVID, but he was forced to give players like younger players like your Kiefer Bellows, like your Noah Dobson's additional time, like your Robin Salos, he was forced to give younger players additional minutes in top roles. And the players have, I would argue, I think they performed. They performed up to the standard that we would expect top 6 forwards to perform up to point-wise. We've expected top 4 defensemen to perform up to point-wise. And now he's shown that, hey, some of these young guys might actually have the ability to play. If we see him just revert back to saying, all right, we're going to put Zdeno Chara and Andy Green back in the lineup. Once Ryan Pulak is back to healthy, Noah Dobson, you're getting bounced down to our 6-pair defensemen. And, Zdeno Chara and Andy Green are going to be playing every night. We're going to roll back out here Zach Parise, Josh Bailey, the list goes on, and we're going to see Kiefer Bellows finding his way back on the bench and everything like that with Kyle Palmieri being back in the lineup. Would that change your opinion on what you think about Trotz for the future of this team?
If Barry Trotz's future with the team?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, first I was going to say him doing it for 1 or 2 games is not enough for me. To me, he's got to ride the young guys for at least 15, 20 games. Absolutely the least. And he needs to take the shackles off and play them regular shifts and regular minutes. Because we've seen in the past that when he plays the young guys, 5 minutes a night, 6 minutes a night, that's it. That's all they're getting because he doesn't trust them. Guess what, Barry? Your style hasn't worked this year. We're one of the bottom 5 teams in the league. And here's the thing. Like I've said 100 times before, if he doesn't want to play the young players, he needs to go. He absolutely needs to go. That's your part 2 of that.
Okay, so, that was the answer I was looking for. Okay. I was just making sure we weren't getting sidetracked from the question. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a 2-parter. I thought you were asking, will I feel better Thursday night if he just happens to roll the young guys out for 1 night? And I will not be happy with that. But like I said, at some point in time, you're going to have that talk with him.
I think it's got to be based off of merit and performance, right?
It's never been the case, though.
I'm just saying, I think it has to be based off of merit and performance. When we look at it, some of these guys, and again, Anthony Beauvillier hasn't played well this year. Josh Bailey hasn't played well this year. Kyle Palmieri, although the effort's been there, hasn't played well in the point department. We're paying a guy $5 million a year. Jean-Gabriel Pageau seemed to have started to pick things up here in the last half, but he's a guy, when you looked at it, he looked like he was missing a little bit of a step in his game. It looks like that's starting to come back to him a little bit, which is important. I mean, Zach Parise, he puts a lot of effort on the ice, but I don't think necessarily he's been all that fantastic with the scoring touch he was supposed to provide of the 10 to 15 goals this year. I don't think necessarily he showed that, yeah, I can do that if you continue to play me in and out. That's what we should be looking for, a different solution, and seeing if we've got any, internally say, hey, do we have any guys that could maybe do what we originally thought XYZ player could do? And that's why I think I have no problem at all with them, again, if they were just continuing to play players based off of merit. But that's not always the case. So, for me, it would be very telling, right? I could always live and I can hang on to a little bit of a thread, grumpy old man, by saying, well, the reason Barry doesn't play the young guys is because he doesn't trust them. And when they get out there, they play short sample sizes, which means that they can't feel confident in themselves. They can't feel like, hey, my shifts are being monitored. And sometimes they won't play it to their full ability. Well, we've been forced to see the young guys play longer shift times, and we forced to see them play more consistent shifts over a 5 or 10 game stretch. And we've seen what they can do. Now, all of us Islander fans, we have seen what Kiefer Bellows could do. People are ready to announce his time of death earlier on in the season. We were the only two that said, let's pump the brakes. He didn't play well. I'm not announcing him dead just quite yet. I don't think he's no Dave Anderchuk. He's not the greatest player since sliced bread. I'm just saying that he looks like a competent, top 9 forward. And this is a guy who would never been given a chance. Now, Barry has seen that those guys can play. If he acknowledges that they can play as well, and he'll say, I'm still going to go back to the vets, I think that kind of tells you, it's very telling.
My thing about Kiefer Bellows, if you look at his overall game, is he really I think he's just as good as Anders Lee. Overall game, I think he's just as good. He's got a much better shot. He moves his feet better. He's not just a stationary target in front of that, which is the only thing Anders Lee does well, is just stay in front of the net. That's it. Nothing else. He gets himself into positions. I'd love to see him play with Barzell and Wallstrom. I'd love to see that as my first line. And I'm willing to ride that. Why? Because you know what? As far as I'm concerned, we're not making playoffs. And will the people be happy if we just slither into the 8th spot and get blown out by Tampa this year? I mean, would that make you feel better at the end of the season? Not me. I'd rather say, you know what? Let's see what we have going forward. I know which players can't play. I want to find out the players that can play going into next year. We know what the old guys can do.
Want to show you this. Now, this was sent in by Eve, our boy Eve L.
Ooh, that's an old picture right there.
Well, they said, now, Tim Kerr, grumpy. Again, back in the 80s, I wasn't watching a lot of hockey. Wasn't born yet at that time period. He parked himself right in front of the net, and he did most of his damage in that part of the office there. He scored 50 goals in a season, and 4 times he had 48 once. So I want to ask you, is he a better comparison for Anders Lee? When I say he's a broke man's Dave Anderchuk, would it be a broke man's Tim Kerr?
Yeah, I think Tim Kerr they're very, very similar players. And how many Stanley Cups did the Flyers win back then? 0. The answer is 0.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Tim Kerr wasn't the best player on their team. He wasn't. But he was a stationary guy, and the game was different, of course. That game, you could have played that game 20, 30 years ago, where you really can't do that now. The game has changed. It's all about skating. It used to have big physical defensemen in the back in the olden days, boxing guys out down in front. Now it's about puck moving defensemen. The guys who stand in front of the net are few and far between, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And would Tim Kerr be as successful in this day and age? I argue no, because the game has changed. And Tim Kerr was good at what he did too. He couldn't skate, wasn't a great defender, but he was good deflecting pucks. He's very similar to Anders Lee, yes.
And I'd say that Anders Lee, I'm sure, is a better skater, right? Skating is much more important in today's game than it was many, many years ago, too.
No. Anders Lee can't skate, in my opinion. He can't skate.
If you can't skate in today's game, those players are all better skaters than what it was in the 80s, though, right? Skating was even worse and less important in the 80s as it is now, because you got away with a lot more clutching and grabbing.
I would compare his skating ability to Tim Kerr's. He's not a good skater. He's always lagging behind in the defensive zone. Always. I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, and I'm not here to rip Anders Lee. I'm not. He has a certain skill set, and he does that skill set well. But here's the thing. If you're going to ask me to compare at $7 million, Anders Lee, or at $1 million for Kiefer Bellows, who's 6-7 years younger, I'm going Kiefer Bellows. He's cheaper. He gives you more of an overall game. I don't understand why people can't see that, honestly. If you've given Kiefer Bellows a chance, only because you've had to, of course, and look how he's produced on both ends of the ice, not just in the offensive end, on both ends. Look at the last few games. Who's scoring the goals for this team? It's the young guys. It's none of the veterans. It's the young guys.
Yeah, you got a lot of goal production out of Noah Dobson. You've got goal production out of Kiefer Bellows. I mean, there's been goals by Anders Lee too.
That's right. Anders Lee's had a couple tip-in goals. He has, but that's it. Of the older players, that's it. No other older players even put a point up, a goal up.
Okay. So I was about to say, a point up. I don't know, Grumpy, but a point up, goal up. Yeah, I understand. Let's get to some comments here, so then we can open up the phone lines. Grumpy old man. Tony Cheese saying TJ needs to walk around carrying a small plant to replenish the oxygen he's wasting.
Ooh,
I do like plants in the house. I'll say that much. I think it cleans the air. It's just got that natural clean to it. Wow. I would love to have a lot of plants. He said, that being said, I love you, TJ. I love you too, Tony Cheese.
Wow.
What do you want, Grumpy?
Shots fired. First comment of the day.
Hey, man. Hey, we read all the comments. Doesn't matter if it's flowery or not. It doesn't bother me. It's like water off a duck's back.
He just called you human carbon dioxide is what he called you.
Jeremy Ford says here, Saturday night, guys. Hope you're doing well. If Varlamov is moved, what is a bigger need? Cap space, a left-handed defenseman, or a first-line left wing / right winger? Have a great show. Appreciate that, Jeremy. Grump. Now, there have been a lot of rumors, right? There's goalie-hungry teams. Edmonton is being listed as one of them. We kind of talked about that in last week's podcast. And again, head coach and goalie and team seems to be, under a little bit of a strife, under some strife. I mean, Koskinen has not played well this season. That being said, he goes ahead and fires back and says the last 6 losses that I've had, we've only scored 7 goals.
Okay. What do you think? If you're going to move Varlamov, what are you looking for, TJ? I'll let you answer first because I always answer first. I want to give you a shot.
Depends on who we move him to. I'm just going to go off on a limb. If we're moving Varlamov, in all likelihood, if we move him at the deadline, I'm not saying we are going to. I'm saying if we do in this scenario, we're moving him to a team that is on the cusp or a playoff competitor, right? The team that is probably in the playoff picture at the moment, they think, hey, if we add a legitimate goalie like Varlamov, whose numbers were fantastic last year, maybe he's bouncing back after a little bit of a poor stretch at the beginning of the season after he had that niggling injury, right? I think that you're going to be looking at, if you're looking for a first-round pick, you're going to be looking in the mid to late 20s perhaps, which doesn't bother me. I think you have to look for draft capital, and I think if you have a prospect that's on the cusp, I wouldn't mind it, but it's tough. Anytime we're asking for prospects or picks, I also come in with the expectation, knowing Barry Trotz is never going to play these guys until they're about 21, 22 years old, maybe 23, until they really get a shot, right? If they're fantastic talents, think about Noah Dobson's a fantastic talent, and he's been babied his way into the lineup until this year where he was forced. They had to throw him in and say, hey, can you do it? And he said, yes, I can, and I could have been doing it if you didn't shackle me all this time. Same thing with Oliver Wahlstrom. The guy was babied in, still playing before he was starting to score over a point a game stretch. He was playing what, like 9 minutes of ice time a night, 10 minutes of ice time a night. I mean, those are top prospects. Those are top 15 picks, all players that performed at the lower levels. And when they got their chance, were also performing in the NHL. He's very, very hesitant to integrate some of the younger players in. So when I see draft picks, I say, realistically, this is probably a 3 to 4 year away player. So that doesn't help our current team the way we want it to. Yet, does it help the future? Sure. But does that help Matt Barzal say, I want to stay here with the Islanders because I believe they're putting the right pieces around me in order to win?
Okay. I hate to be a stickler. What is your answer to the question? I know you rode that fence just about as long as you could. Or do you just want me to give an answer?
I'll give you the answer.
Okay.
It's got to be shit. I tell you, it's got to be a younger player who maybe has struggled with performance that we think maybe could have a bounce back with a change of scenery and a first. A guy who, and again, like, I'll throw names out there. I'm not saying these particular players. I'm saying players of these ilk. Remember when Jonathan Druin was traded from Tampa to Montreal? Right, that was a guy who had the pedigree, who had performed for a little bit, but just kind of stagnated out. Seemed like his career had kind of plateaued. Right, they took a chance, they traded for him, and Druin has put up points. He hasn't been all as productive as originally they had thought when drafted. Another guy, grumpy old man, I use as an example, Jacob Debrusk. I'm not saying exactly Jacob Debrusk. I'm saying a player like that. He's had, performances when he was younger where he'd scored 20 some odd plus goals a season, 45, 50 points. And, he's a guy who probably needs a little bit of a change of scenery and a first round pick. So that's what I'm thinking about. A player of that ilk who maybe has fallen out of good graces, who's still relatively young, maybe could bounce back. There are players across the board. Who was the player that went to Florida, grumpy old man, and really was able to turn his career around? I'm trying to think. He signed a 1-year deal with the Florida. Bennett did that too, but I'm thinking about this is a winger. I can't think of the guy. I'll have to pull it up. But a player of that ilk, I think you need to find a player who's fallen out of kind of good graces, who's still young. He performed a little bit when he was younger, had the hype machine behind him, kind of plateaued a bit. The same way Anthony Beauvillier has for us in a first-round pick. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay. I don't care about the secondary player, because particularly a forward, because it doesn't matter. Our team is loaded with guys with long-term deals in our forward group. So, and if you're looking for somebody who's going to play on your first two lines, I think that's a little too much of an ask for Varlamov. For me, I'm looking for draft capital. If it's a first-round pick, absolutely, I'm moving him. I'm just all about loading up. And people say, well, gosh, that pick's going to be, 25 or, whatever, 22 or 20 or whatever. In a deep draft, a 25 is maybe worth what a 15 was in a regular draft year.
By the way, Anthony Duclair was the name I was looking for Florida.
Okay.
A guy like that, right? Anthony Duclair, before he found his stay in Florida, was a free agent. He was a free agent. I'm just saying a player like that who was kind of, they've showed signs when they were younger. They've had seasons where they've looked good, others where they're like, the consistency's not there. They need a little bit of a change of scenery, a different type of coaching style that maybe help them get their feet underneath them, and they could finally turn themselves into a guy who's a legitimate top six, performer. So I'm like, you're taking a gamble, right? Because they might, crap out. They might crap out. So like Alex Galchenyuk, right? He was a guy maybe I would have said a few years ago, I'd roll the dice on an Alex Galchenyuk, even if he doesn't pan out, like probably Galchenyuk hasn't at this point, you would argue. You still have that first round pick in the mid-20s.
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking for if I'm trading away a guy like Varlamov. Sorokin's fantastic. Sorokin has the ability to be a top 5 netminder in the NHL. I think talent-wise is unbelievable.
Okay. I think you're thinking the value of Semyon Varlamov is way more than it really is. I just don't think he's that. Like I said, if you get a first round pick, I'm running to the bank and cashing that one.
I'm thinking this with Varlamov. He's a guy who has one additional year of cap certainty. And I'm not saying, again, you could build a team around him. He's up there in age. What I am saying, though, is we gave up. And you look at the trade deadline, everybody always overpays at the NHL trade deadline. And again, if the player has fallen out of good graces and he's, kind of sitting there where he's been healthy, scratched a game or two. I mean, Jacob Vrana was a guy who fell out of graces in Washington, and he goes to Detroit. Well, even afterwards, when Todd Reirden was the coach, he fell out of good graces there too. His point production wasn't there. He gets moved to the Red Wings, right? And he's able to revamp his career. Given I don't think he's come back this year yet because he's still working his way through the injury or the surgery he had in the offseason. But they traded him for Mantha, and they traded away Panik. They got Vrana, who's really performed and bounced back a little bit. Those are the type of guys I'm looking for. And again, they'll look at, remember, Washington did it this last year, and they said, hey, we think that, Vrana is just not in the cards for us. We're going to upgrade with Mantha, and we're going to go ahead and give you Richard Panik to shed some additional cap and make additional moves. So that's what I'm looking for, right? Might not work out for us. I'm just saying teams always overpay at the NHL trade.
I don't see anybody giving you a young top 6 forward type. Plus
Vrana was not a top 6 forward at that time period. He was bouncing in between. He was a healthy scratch. I'm just saying, Duclair wasn't. Again, Duclair wasn't traded, but Jonathan Druin was not a top 6 forward when traded. He was a guy who had potential, showed spurts, but
their skill sets are of top 6 forwards, regardless of production or not. They're not bottom 6 type forwards.
Anthony Beauvillier would be a guy like this. And would you consider, let's say we were a goalie-hungry team. Again, I think the league values Varlamov possibly more than you and I do. I think you and I look at him and say, I think Varlamov is a player of the system, and that's the reason why. But I think the league says, all right, we're able to see he's still flexible. He moves well. He provides a consistent hand in net. He's a confident goalie and a confident netminder. He's produced good numbers for the Islanders, given he won't produce those here, but he'll produce better than our current netminder. And if we could maybe shave off 15 or 20 goals over the next, 30 games, that's fantastic. And in the playoffs, let's say he shaves off 7 or 8 goals where our current goalie wouldn't be able to have it. That could turn a series and possibly elevate us to a Stanley Cup Finals.
Okay. I'm sure maybe like I said, I think Varlamov's a solid goalie. If I could move him for a first round pick, I'm doing that. I still think that you're overvaluing his worth. I just don't see.
Palmieri and Travis Zajac went for a first and a fourth last year's trade deadline.
That's
Jean-Gabriel Pageau, who was on an expiring contract, went for a first, and what was it, first and a second?
A first, second, and if we would have won a cup, a third.
Yeah, so first and second and a conditional item if we won a cup, but we didn't.
Isn't that exorbitant for a third line center?
It is, but that's
okay.
what I'm saying. That is that across the league, teams always overpay. You might say Lou's always overpaying. Everybody overpays at the trade deadline. Everybody does because they see the cup so close. They say, we've got what it takes. We can mortgage the future for this year's success. And they look at it and say, oh, this is a pick that's going to be in the 25th overall selection. This is a guy who hasn't panned out for us. Now we get the goalie we need, and we can really win a cup.
Okay, if you're looking at Edmonton, they're in 8th place in the playoffs in the West.
They need a new goalie. Quite obvious.
I agree that. But do you think they're going to give up players and a first-round pick when they're going to be in 8th? I don't know.
I would say in their situation, if a guy like Jesse Puljujarvi did not start performing, and let's say he was going a little bit here and there, right? He's performed. The numbers have been there since playing with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. You could say maybe he's a product of McDavid and Draisaitl, and I tend to probably side towards that. Anybody could put up points with McDavid and Draisaitl just by being on the ice. They said Leo Komarov would have 40 points paired up with McDavid and Draisaitl. So you're looking at a guy who, is a tweener, and their lineup, he was a guy that was last season. He was a guy that was rumored to have been possibly on the block. He was going to be waived in a first round pick. So that's what I'm talking about. Like I don't think Puljujarvi, because he's played very well this season, I don't think he's in the cards to being dealt. And I have not examined the Oilers lineup all that fastidiously. But I'm just saying, a first round pick for the Oilers, they're going to be saying, hey, if we can get the goalie, which is what we desperately need, we're going to start winning games. They don't have trouble scoring a goal. They have trouble keeping the puck out of their own net, and their goalie Koskinen is not doing them any favors.
Yeah, I just think you're overvaluing what you're going to get for Varlamov. That's all.
Fair
we'll
enough.
Just agree to disagree on that one. I don't see him being anything more. If you can get a first-round draft pick for him, I'm moving him. Even a second rounder, I'm moving him.
No, I'm not moving him for a second, brother. No way in hell. That would be. We talk about how little you get paid for Devon Toews.
Backup. He's a backup goalie.
And I would say across 25 of the teams among the league, he would be a 1A, 1B starter.
Yeah, he's a backup.
Not a starter.
We're not going to go through all the goalies in the league. To me, he's a backup. On a good team, he's a backup.
Oh, okay. We've got Scott L saying, hello, guys. What's up, Scott? And what's up, Brett W? How are you guys doing here? Yeah, and he said, sorry to hear about Barry's mom there. Peace be with you, Barry. That's sad.
Now, I always wanted to ask Jeremy if that's him and if that's, over in Scotland.
That should be, what do they call that? It's a famous golf course, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm forgetting the name. I don't know if it is or not. I'm just asking. I don't know if that's Jeremy on the course over there, where they've held the British Open in the past, and I forgot the name. My bad. I'm just wondering if that is.
John M. saying, good evening, gentlemen. Going to be watching some Auburn destroy Florida tonight or Eagle boys. Well, welcome, John. Brett W. said, who should Barry Trotz sit for Palmieri, Ross, or Kiefer Bellows?
Bellows needs to play the top 6 role. The problem that Barry makes with whenever he does play Bellows or has in the past is putting him in a bottom 6 forward position, where his job is just to play defense. That's not the type of player he is. He's a top 6 goal scoring forward. You don't dump those guys in the bottom 6. For me,
St. Andrews.
That's exactly it. Yes. So for me, I don't know. I'm looking at it this way. If you want Ross Johnston to play, you sit Matt Martin. You sit You sit Casey Zizekas and put Zach Parise down on the fourth line. That's what I do. Cal Clutterbuck has earned his spot this year.
He's played really well. And that's a guy you traded at the deadline. I think a team, you're going to get paid more than you think his value is worth because he's a sandpaper guy who's got experience and could really fill in on a fourth line right wing role.
Right now, so if you're looking at just your fourth line, I mean, I have no problem at all with it being Parise making $750K, centering Johnston and Clutterbuck. No problem at all. Jarnac should play on your third line with Pajot and an Anthony Beauvillier, right? To me, my second line would be, since they're going to play him at some way, shape, or form, you play Nelson with Lee and either Bailey or Palmieri.
Gotcha.
And then whoever doesn't make the cut there, they're the top six forward that sits. Either Bailey or Palmieri, and you put Wallstrom with Bellows and Barzell. That's what I would do.
Gotcha. John M saying, yep, play the young guys. You'll find out what you got in the future with them. Coach Tommy B said, good evening, guys. Good evening, Coach Tommy B. Salutations. Matthew S saying, what's up? Welcome. Michael T there saying, good evening. Cool kids, Mr. Grumpy and Mr. TJ. Good to see you guys. Good to see you too. And then Tommy B said, appreciate if you guys can send a get well soon to my lady Andrea. Had a hip surgery done on Thursday. Ooh.
You want to know why? Because she's been carrying Tommy's lazy ass for how many years? Andrea, good luck.
Absolutely. Hopefully you're back and walking soon. I tell you, those type of things that immobilize you when you're sitting on the couch suck, but hopefully you get well soon.
Yes, I hope you get well soon. And I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Cut loose that dead weight. You will not have to have another hip surgery.
Michael T saying, hey guys, love the show. Keep up the good work. What's up, Michael T? I wonder if these Michael T's are the same, Grumpy.
I don't know.
No. Anyway, Warzone Senior Citizen says, if the grumpy old man was Islanders owner, would you fire Trotz?
Depend on, because I would have already asked him the questions that I've posed here in the last month and a half, 2 months.
You wouldn't fire him mid-season though. I mean, like if Barry Trotz were to go, it would be more of an off-season. Like, hey, we've got a difference of opinion for the future.
Right now, you're playing for next year. Okay. As an organization, you want to evaluate your talent. You have to. This season's lost, gone.
I disagree there a bit.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm not saying we're making a guaranteed make the playoffs. Based off of what the young players have shown, if we continue to ride the hot hand, I think we can rattle off a few wins. I told you the next 10 games are very, very easy point of our schedule, all at home. If we're able to come away with 16 points, I think we're singing a different tune.
Okay, can I just say something?
Sure.
Warzone did not ask if TJ was general manager, if was owner. He asked if the grumpy old man was owner.
Look at you.
So just let me give the answer, then you can pontificate if you like. I would say to Barry, it's about next year. And we're going to do everything we can to get rid of some of the deadwood veterans on this team. Are you willing? Because here's the thing. If Barry comes in and starts just playing all the veterans again, that's a fireable offense, in my opinion. So if I'm the owner, I would have already had this talk with him. Hey, condolences on your mom when you come back. This is what we want. We know the chances of making the playoffs or contending for a Stanley Cup this year are really, really slim at this juncture. So what we want you to do, Barry, is to ride the young guys all year, and let's evaluate what they can do if they can be part of the plan going forward. And if Barry says, I don't want to do that, I'm going to go with the veterans, goodbye, Barry. And I'd fire him that day. And I put Lane Lambert as the head coach and give him the same edict, because we're not playing for this year anymore. We're playing for next year. In my opinion, that's what we're doing. I want the young guys to play. That's what I want.
You and I disagree a bit, just because I think if the young guys do play, I think that you're going to see a little bit more life. You're going to see more energy. And I think you're going to see something that the Islanders, Lane Lambert, I think, again, he's going to employ a similar style, more defensive minded, but Barry Trotz has a slavish devotion to playing defense first. Everything all the offense we produce comes from, again, heavy checking, forcing mistakes in our defensive zone, which we're able to go ahead and break out into a counterattack. That's Barry Trotz style. Hey, counterpunch, defense, block, boom, hit him with a counterpunch. I mean, that's what we're looking for out of Barry. That's what Barry Trotz style is. I think Lane Lambert still is defensive minded, but I don't think as defensive minded perhaps as Barry. Again, I don't know them through a hole in the wall. Lane Lambert. We've only seen him coach over a 2-game span. I'm going to say one thing: when he's out there coaching the Islanders, he wasn't upsetting the apple cart, saying, "Hey guys, let's play a New York Rangers style of hockey. Let's play heavy forecheck, all offense, all the time. Let's play the Toronto Maple Leafs style of play from last year. We're just going to be playing all offense, no defense."
Okay, no, you misunderstand my point.
No, I don't. I'm just saying that we're talking about Lane Lambert. That's all.
Well, you're not going to hire somebody from outside the organization now. You're gonna if you're gonna have an interim guy, you do it from within.
I wouldn't fire him halfway through the season, man.
Okay. If he refuses to go with the direction that we want if I'm the owner, okay, that's how this question was prefaced. If I was the owner, I would have already had this conversation with him, because I feel Barry has gotten this team to go as far as it can go under him with this current makeup of players.
It's been far. It's been really far. Let's not undermine that. It's been really far under Barry.
Okay, but if he doesn't want to see which young guys, and it's all about auditioning the young guys to see if they can play.
Yeah.
That, to me, that's what it's all about. And if Barry says no to that, I have no problem saying goodbye.
Okay. JK here, which is too pessimistic, said Staple just had the last podcast covering the Islanders. Yep. So now he's officially moving to the Rangers. Okay. Well, there we go. That was the last podcast. That was the last No Sleep Till Belmont podcast. Grumpy old man. Glad you
there
got
you
that.
go.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you. And then Jeremy F saying, assuming Green and Char are finished after this season, the Islanders have Pelech, Salo, Aho, Bolduc, Mitchell Van Sompel on the left side. Lindholm is the only unrestricted free agent worth signing. What do you guys suggest Lou does?
You can make trades also in the offseason. There are teams that have a glut of left-handed defensemen. I think Salo should start next year, depending on how he plays the rest of the year. But like I said, once again, if I'm the owner, my edict going down to the coaching staff is I want Salo to play every game the rest of the way, with the auspice that, maybe he can play on the bottom pairing if he doesn't shine. We still want him to be a starter next year, even if it's some limited minutes capacity on the bottom pairing. Or if he steps up, we can move him onto the second pairing with no adoption going into next year. That's what my thought process is. And if his development is a little bit slow, you go out and you acquire a left-handed defenseman. You don't wait until a week in the training camp before signing a 45-year-old Zdeno Chara. You act proactive in that.
Real quick, did you happen to see, on a different topic, I think the NHL All-Star Game's been canceled this year. Did you see that?
No loss there. That's it's a boring week. I never liked the All-Star Game itself. It's just, I don't know. It lost its appeal over the years for me.
Am I thinking wrong here? Because I'm seeing a whole bunch of people, hey, vote for Matt Barzal. Maybe I saw that they were considering canceling the All-Star Game, depending on what was going on.
Well, maybe usually they have it in February. Maybe they were not going to have it because of the Olympics. But since they took that away from the players, maybe they'll throw them a bone for the All-Star Game. I don't know.
It's still showing as February 5th. I don't know where I saw that, but I thought I saw that the NHL All-Star Game was going to be not in favor this season. So maybe I had to check my sources. I had to find out where I saw that. Maybe it was just somebody joking around. Who the heck knows? Scott was saying the Grumpy is off-centered on that TJ, on that shirt, TJ. I liked it over here on the right side. So it allows, it's like, like how people put like a pocket there or something like that. I just wanted the Grumpy on the little crest. It's like a crest of the Grumpy old man. And on the back is the Grumpy's Groupies van. And then we've got here Matthew S. saying Staple can eat spit.
I don't know how tricious that is, but he could pretty much eat whatever he likes. I think it's still a free country when it comes to eating food.
I don't know how tricious that is.
Probably a little bit limited nutritional value, but hey, you never know.
Oh man, I tell you, the entire NHL, for the matter, I find it hard to really give a shit for all the mess of the schedule and COVID.
Well, it's just so disjointed. It's like, I mean, the Islanders have played how many games? It seems like in a month. We played, 2 games? It's like off season almost.
SP said there's no shame in his game because he's always the same. Talking
Bingo.
about Grumpy.
Yes.
Tommy B said, no, if you give up that group of players, get a frontline scorer. If you were to give up your Anthony Bavillier, Robin Salo, Atu Ratu, and a first-round pick, you need to get a guy who's a top-line scorer.
I just think looking at how the team has performed this year, the veterans in particular, who are under long-term deals still, you're kind of between a rock and a hard place. And is going after a proven scorer the way to go? Or do you want to just kind of do, hey, let's reload with, retool. Yeah. Reload, retool. Yeah. I guess it would be retool, because certainly not reload. Retool by just getting as many draft picks as you can, moving whatever veterans you can from whatever value, and just try to amass a nice stable of young players coming in. That's what I would do.
Yeah, absolutely, Grumpy. I don't disagree.
And even if you have a little bit of a down year for a year or two, that's fine, as long as you have a plan and you see players who can develop and ease them into your system. I have no problem with that.
Scott L also saying, yeah, it's way too much. We're giving up in a Chitrin deal. And SP said, yep, it's too much and half of our future for one guy who won't even fix half the problems we have. Rich A also saying, yeah, super dumb trade. Our win now window was closed last season.
I say 2 years ago.
Tommy B says, give me a cost-controlled score for Barzal, and I do it. Tommy B, are you worried that Matt Barzal might run for the hills?
I suggested that a while ago, and I was shot down. I was like, I felt like I was George Custer, and everybody else was the Indian.
At Custer's stand.
Custer's last stand, right? I mean, that's my whole thing. You got to keep him happy, and to me, you have to talk to him about that.
I hate, one thing I dislike about, I guess I don't dislike it. It's just how things have changed, and it's across all sports. Now, you look back how sports were 15, even 20 years ago. You wanted to keep players happy, but it wasn't as important. Now it's like you have to do anything and everything you can to pamper players, because it's like they're, and again, good for the players, right? They're realizing the power and the sway and the movement that they've got, where you have to be essentially kissing the freaking ground that they walk on. And again, like, I can understand how some people don't like to do that, but it's just what most teams in all professional sports and even college sports do now. I mean, you look at the name, image, and likeness deals and everything like that. Players that are really talented, you essentially have to say, hey, I've got to do anything I can to keep this guy happy. Just how it is.
Times have changed.
Times have changed.
If you don't change with them, you're going to get left in the dust. And I'm talking about Lou Lamoriello there.
Michael T said, oh, and by the way, Aaron Rodgers over Tom Brady, Grump.
I don't know about that. Tom Brady leads the league in yards, touchdowns, completions, Super Bowl victories. My question is, who would you rather have in a big game, Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady? That ends that discussion right there. Thank you, Michael T. And
then Anthony R. saying, stop with this Chitrin stuff. We're not giving up half of our young players for them. I tell you, people on social media were not as opposed to this as some, and I was shocked by it.
Because they're dumb. Because they're dumb.
Yeah. Dumb. And then Scott L says, it's pronounced Chikrin. Thank you. Call him Chitrin, but thank you, Chikrin. Jeremy F said Robin Salad 23 all the season, turns 24 at the start of next year. I was about to say, you talk about a guy who projects to be a top four defenseman. He's got a lot of offensive acumen. We're going to be giving up a guy who, again, could fill into a role, maybe not as good as Chikrin, but a guy who is a more than serviceable top four defenseman when he does get his feet underneath him here, I think.
Do you want to repeat the same mistake of Devon Taves? And here's the thing. I don't think that Robin Salad was good at Devon Taves. Certainly not yet. Haven't seen enough of him. But Taves was an established veteran who played a year and a half in the league, and you gave him away for nothing. Do you want to repeat that mistake? I mean, we repeat mistake after mistake after mistake by signing our 30 and over crowd to long-term extensions. Don't make the same mistakes with the young players.
Yep, and John G and Andrew L, yes, echoing the same thing. It seems like the majority of the people listening to this podcast, Grump, not in favor of that trade, and I do like to see that. And Brian B, your brother from another mother, said, give it up, please. Bavillier's a third liner at best. That's why I say top 9 forward. That means he's going to be a streaky third line left wing scorer. If there's a plethora of injuries, he could be slid up to a top 6 role. But on a good team, he's a top 9 guy, third line left wing.
Listen, for most of this fan base who listens to our show, they're smart. They're a smart group of people, not just some goofballs.
Absolutely. And then Tommy B said, if you take Atu Ratu out of the deal, I do it. I just that first round pick. I'm sorry. I just
Speaking of goofballs, see, there you go. There's the exception that proves the rule, right there. That was just too easy. That was too easy.
Too easy.
Perfect.
Man. Anthony R saying Bavilla will bounce back. He's young, just a bad year for the entire club. I still believe he can be a good second line left wing. He would put up more points in a team that is more offensive minded. He's never going to put up a lot of points in this system. Just won't happen.
Yeah, he'd be much better. He's a go-getter. And here's the thing. What people seem to forget, we rip him, well, gosh, or Barry rips him saying, well, he's not playing enough defense, or, he had a lazy play. Go look at the other forwards in this league. I think teams that have a lot of offensive talent would love to have a guy like Anthony Beauvillier on their team. Why? Because they've been trained by Barry Trotz on how to play defense from a forward position. And so even though they would have higher offensive numbers and wouldn't have the level of responsibility that they do at the new team they go to, the fact that they know how to play that would really improve their stock with other teams. And I think teams would value him very highly because of that.
Another reason, too, with Anthony Beauvillier, even if he's making a defense mistake here and there, if you don't watch a lot of the teams around the NHL, their defensemen have worse defensive responsibility sometimes than our forwards do. And you look at it and you say, yeah, okay, if he was in a more offensive minded, he would still make the mistakes on the defensive side of the puck, but they would look like an infinitesimally small fraction of the mistakes that the other forwards and the defensemen he was playing on that same line with that were making. So, it's worth taking that into account. George B said, oh, stop with this Staple nonsense. He's horrid. He sucked up the snow, and once snow left, Staple actually had to do work.
I wonder
if he took everything from Phil's facts.
I wonder if he oops, I pulled off my mic. I wonder if Staple put out there, because now he's writing for the Rangers beat, and he figured that would be better for the Rangers to have, the Islanders gut their farm system for a guy who's, okay.
And Frank K saying the same thing. No damn way I'm doing that trade. Yeah, that trade just made it seem like a knee-jerk reaction to a lost season, says Michael T. Yeah, I agree. And Villiers is the only player who's struggling on that list. JG said, or John G, or JG says here. George B said, the price, Josh Bailey, Kool-Aid Islanders Hall of Famer, is never mentioned as a trade piece. There's a reason.
Yeah, nobody wants him. Now, here's the thing. If you said, hey, how about for Chikrin would give you Bailey and Lee and Nelson. Well, not Nelson. I think Nelson performed okay. But Lee, Bailey, and throw somebody, Clutterbuck. Would you do it? I would do that. But would the other team do that? No.
Okay, why would they take...
I'm just saying.
They take on Crump. Yeah, I'd also would have given him Andrew Ladd last year, and I'd also would have given him every bad contract.
What's the difference? It's a ridiculous trade scenario from my part, just like the one that Staple put out there is a ridiculous trade scenario from his part. They're both ridiculous, and neither one's happening.
SB said, not the deepest draft in a decade, TJ. 2015 was probably the best and deepest draft in history. I know 2015 was a fantastic draft. From everything I'm reading, this is supposed to be one of the deepest drafts within the decade, in the last 2 decades. That's all I'm saying. This is from what I'm reading. Again, we're going to have our boy Will Scouching on this offseason to give us the report, especially if we've got a higher pick, man. We have to have Will back on to kind of give us the lowdown. He cut right through the BS in the offseason and said, yeah, Robin Salo is a better defensive prospect than Samuel Bolduc, and was able to see right through that. And, I trust him. His word now carries a lot. His word carries a lot of weight with it. That's all I'll say in my book.
He didn't think much about the Islanders farm system either.
No, he did not. He loved Atu Ratu. And what does it say, right? The guy's performed. He gets out of car pot. He's performed, right? You saw Samuel Bolduc, who he said, I really wasn't too big on him. I mean, it's Robin Salo. He foresaw all that situation. I mean, the guy is up to date. He watches prospects play more than anybody else, I think, in the business. So the guy is a hard worker. We love Will.
True.
And then Matthew S. said, hell, let's give him Matt Barzal while we're at it. Frank K. said, maybe we can give him Bellows, Wallstrom, Dobson, and Varley too. Yeah, Dan L say no freaking way. Arthur Staple is clickbait. Says
Go back to Dan L's comment. You know what the baby said? He couldn't put his hand up to his head yet, but he knew it was such a bad trade. Just put his head down. Buh. That's all he did.
Anthony R said this Chikrin is such a non-realistic topic. Let's stay the course. We're finally starting to play the youngsters and seeing what we have, and in some cases, pleasantly surprised and happy.
True.
Mario says, remember when I said a few months back the Islanders should go after Chikrin? It would have been cheaper. It would have been cheaper then too. It would have been cheaper then.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have made us any better this year. Our problems are all on the front.
Anthony Beauvillier could reunite with Andrew Ladd. That's true.
Best first line.
Could you imagine their top six left wingers being Anthony Beauvillier and Andrew Ladd?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Kessel's doing pretty good there this year. Clayton Keller.
Yeah, guys got to score for bad teams though.
That's right.
And here's the thing: Arizona has a lot of picks, and it's going to really determine on how, what the future of that looks like. Are they going to miss on all these picks? Are they going to hit on it? Are they going to be the Detroit Red Wings in 3 or 4 years, or are they going to miserably miss on these and have a freaking prolonged rebuild that's going to last 5-6 seasons?
The one thing is
Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, the one thing is when you have a whole lot of picks, even if you miss on a few, it gives you more opportunities to hit. That's the real thing.
Look at the Islanders back in the early days too, Grumpy, back during the dark times. How many freaking picks did we have in the top 3 rounds and we'd still shit the bed?
Well, but those were not particularly great drafts. One year we had 4 first-round picks, and I think it was like a 1-player draft. I mean, it was what it was.
You've got to love it, man. You've got to love it. Yeah, and we appreciate it. Dan L said, you guys are both absolutely right there. Oh, yeah, I'll tell you. Ariel C said Klimberg is going to want a big contract next season, but he's not worth more than $7.5 million.
Does he really want to come here? I mean, I just think you're going to find a hard time getting people to come here.
I'm still going to remain on board when you're talking about contracts. If Noah Dobson is willing to sign and pen an 8-year contract, I'd give him 8 years, $7 million per.
I'm talking about free agency.
Oh no, I'm just talking about when we're talking about on the topic of contracts. I'm willing to overpay to keep Noah Dobson for an 8-year time period. I know he'd be the highest paid defenseman on the team, and people are going to freak out about that. How can we pay him more than Adam Pelech and Ryan Pulock? I think Noah Dobson's ceiling is dangerously high, unbelievably high. We've seen some of that. The guy, mind you, what is it? Noah Dobson's only 21 years old, Grump, right?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I'm all for that. And I wouldn't even offer him 7, maybe 6.5 or 6.
I'm sorry, he's 22. He just turned 22 yesterday.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Noah.
Happy birthday, Noah. But
I know he listens to the show. He's a very loyal follower.
Let's say it's 6 or 6.5 million per year. Would his agent take that? Would he take that for an 8-year deal? I'd throw it out there.
Go for it. Or 6.5. That's fine. I'm just saying I'd go up to $7 million, say 8 years, $7 million a year deal. Would you take it? I mean, we're buying out a lot of years of restricted free agency.
Right. Even though he's not worth that yet, by the end, he most probably is going to outplay that contract. That's what you want to do. That's why you invest in these guys younger and younger before they hit unrestricted free agency. And who did that? Toronto did that. You think if Mitch Marner hit the market or Austin Matthews hit the market when they were, 27 years old, how much money were they going to make a year? $12 million. Now they got him on fairly reasonable terms. Marner's 7.5. I mean, that's a steal for him. Yeah, you pay a little bit more up front, but you save so much on the back end.
I was about to say, you're going to be getting him through the prime of his career and the prime of it, right? 8 years would take him until he's 30 years old. I mean, you're getting some freaking fantastic years out of Noah Dobson. The guy's an unbelievable player, and you're going to see it. I said it on the podcast when we were with Phil's Facts. I said 10 goals, a bare minimum this season. Everybody looked at me like I had 8 heads because what, do you only have 2 goals at the time period or 1 goal? I said, just trust me. Wait, you'll see. Now he's sitting at 5, only 20 some odd games played for the Islanders. I'm sitting kind of comfy, Grumpy. I'm saying 10, maybe 15, but I'm saying bare minimum 10 goals for Noah Dobson this year.
He has more goals than the whole rest of the the Islanders defense corps.
The Giants, Grumpy. I tell you, what are you get a little tired, Grump? The Giants.
Oh my God,
the Giants.
The Giants.
I was about to say,
the Giants score about as often as the Islanders do. So,
They're gluttons for pain. All the New York fans. Tommy B says, unless I'm getting a scoring stud, I'm not moving Ratu or this year's first round pick. Plain and simple.
I'm not moving any first round picks for at least the next 2 or 3 years. Not even close.
Oh, come on, man. Next 2 or 3 years.
Listen to me. The draft is the lifeblood of the team. You cannot trade it away. Don't do it.
I get it. We have a lot of young pieces we can build around.
We don't have that many young pieces to build around. You're wrong.
Yes, we do.
No.
Think about it. Our top 4 defensemen are going to be cemented in. Our goaltender is cemented in. What are we really drafting for? We're drafting for additional defensive pieces in case, we got to trade or move a guy away. We're drafting for forwards, right? We've got a top line forward in Oliver Wahlstrom. He is going to be a bona fide top line right winger. No freaking doubt about it. What we've seen out of Kiefer Bellows shows that maybe he could slide into a top 6 role if he continues.
That's all you have.
In Matt Barzal.
That's it. 3 guys. Everybody else is replaced. Everyone else is imminently replaceable. That's what I'm saying. You don't have a whole. And who do you have coming up?
Ratu. Yeah.
Okay. So then you still need 8 more guys.
If I'm looking at it, I've got a top line right wing, a top line center, and a second line center in the pipeline. And again, Kiefer Bellows, you can even take him out of the equation. I've got 3 of the 6 guys that we're going to need in our top 6. I'm not trading. Cemented in, and our goalie's cemented in.
I'm not trading around first grade. If it's to me, I'm not trading first round draft picks. I'm just not doing it.
Okay.
It was a mistake for the last 3 years we've done it. Has been a mistake.
Frank K. saying Zarnak has been better than both the Devils.
Very true.
Parise and Kyle Palmieri. Yeah, Staples last show. And then Jeremy F. said, I think Sarnak makes Zizekas disposable. I like 53, but a contending team would definitely love his game in the playoffs. Clutterbuck, too, if the Islanders drop out of the race for sure. The thing I worry about is the 5 more additional years on Casey Zizekas' contract. Would teams be wanting to trade for that and to sign up for it? Maybe. In my book, I would never sign up for a guy like that who's had an injury-riddled career. And again, he's been healthy the last 2 or 3 seasons in shortened years. He's been relatively healthy. But as you turn 32, 33, 34 years old, the injuries are just going to continue to pile up. So you're going to be getting diminishing returns. Again, his cap hit's nothing crazy, but do you want to sign on board if you're a team like, let's assume playoff caliber teams? If you're a team like Tampa, are you signing up for Casey Zizekas for another 5 seasons? If you're a team like Edmonton, are you signing up for Casey Zizekas for another 5 seasons?
No one is. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
With everyone up against the salary cap ceiling because of COVID, what was the market value for a 30-year-old 4th line center that you felt you had to give him a 6-year deal? You couldn't have just offered him a 3-year deal or a 2-year deal. You couldn't have done that. Did you feel that the market out there for him was so extravagant that you had to go that extra mile? I just think it was so dumb.
Grumpy, I want to bring this up to you. I don't know if you happen to remember this. We talked about this on Thursday's podcast on TJ and the Grumpy Old Man Show, but I wanted to bring this up. Do you remember how we talked about the CBA when it originally happened? And we said, oh, wow, yeah, I think that the players lost. And people told me, oh, no, well, they're going to be able to play in the Olympics, which is a huge win, and the cap's going to stay flat. But look at it. They lost so much money, guys, that this makes sense for them. I have got something to share with you guys. And right after this, we'll read the ad and open up the phone lines. I apologize. We're running slow today, but hey, it's a Saturday evening. 20 different NHL teams are suing 5 different insurance providers, alleging the companies have breached contracts, refusing to reimburse them more than $1 billion worth of losses due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's just assume we split that across the board amongst the 20 teams, the $1 billion. That's $50 million across each team. So those 20 teams, remember, they said, guys, we're not going to be able to financially get back from this. The profits and the revenue, it's not good over that time period. So we're going to have to go ahead and we're going to keep the cap flat for another 3 years. And then the 4th year after the CBA that we sign in, we're going to increase the cap by $1 million because we've lost so much revenue here during this COVID time period. You will be, I'm sure, Islander fans, you'll be very happy to know. Oh, am I not showing my screen? I apologize.
You're not showing your screen.
But here it is, right? This was TSN Hockey. This was reported on January the 5th. You've got 20 different NHL teams suing for $1 billion total. Let's assume 50 million. 50 million per team, or around that average. Now, this people may ask, okay, are the players going to get some sort of benefit from this?
I could answer that question.
Former NHLPA lawyer and economic consultant Richard Reuters says no, because the NHL and the NHLPA's CBA specifically excludes insurance-related proceeds from HRR.
I'm going to tell you what.
The amount of money they're going to recover, and they'll probably settle out of court from this, so they might not get the $1 billion. They're going to recover a certain portion, but the players are not going to see any of that money, and that's how they're going to kind of get back some of those losses they made. But hey, they pulled the wool over the players' eyes, and they said, when we're going to have CPI increasing about 7% them some time periods, inflation is 6 or 7%, we're going to keep the cap flat for another 3 years and $1 million increase the year after. For 4 seasons, we're going to increase the cap by $1 million. Whoop! Pulls the wool right over their eyes. And the big bargaining chip was the Olympics, which they're not even going to get.
I'm going to tell you what. I don't know how long the CBA runs for, but the next time, and I doubt the players will do it, I would just say, you know what? We're not playing unless we get bing, bang, boom. And don't even for a second bow off of that. And I'd ask for more than you probably deserve, because they got screwed once again by the owners. The hockey players always get screwed by the owners. Always. And they're, like I said, I'm not surprised the owners are not losing money on this. I never thought they would.
They probably will lose some money. They're not going to recover all of their losses. They're going to recover a large portion. Let's assume they even settle for a fraction of that. They're still recovering some of those losses that they claim that we're probably
I don't believe they lost $1 billion in a year and a half. I don't believe it.
Amongst 20 teams?
I flat out $1 billion. No, I do not believe that.
Okay. I'm just saying it's worth talking about, and you're not seeing a lot of people talking about this. Remember, we cover everything regarding the NHL on that item. But Grumpy, do you know what time it is?
It's probably ad time, and we're behind on that.
Do you know who sponsors the Islanders Never Say Die podcast and the TJ and the Grumpy Old Man show? Do you happen to know who that is, Grump?
Yes, I do.
Who?
Draftkings. Would you like me to read the ad?
Look at you.
I want to get it done sometime before midnight.
Hockey, yeah, it is DraftKings. The ad in today's podcast is brought to you by DraftKings. Hockey fans, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has a no-brainer offer that will make you a winner once any shot gets past the goalie. New customers can bet just $1 on any NHL team and win $100 in free bets if either team scores. The NHL got rid of ties in 2005, so you know somebody is going to light the lamp. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, no worries. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy hockey contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code THPN and throw down $1 on any NHL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. That's promo code THPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. You must be 21 years or older in New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum of a $5 deposit and $1 wagers required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
I always say, it's the Gambler Madonna song. And then Kenny Rogers had the Gambler song also.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, Matthew West, they're saying Staple is obviously a Rangers fan. So he's happy now.
True.
Going to open up the phone lines, ladies and gentlemen. The phone, if you want to call in to me and Grumpy, is going to be in the top left. Man, we haven't done a call in a little while, Grumpy. I might be a little rusty. I hope I don't make any mistakes.
Okay. Yeah, you can hope. Let's rip through some comments before we get any phone calls. How about that?
Okay. That's the Zekas contract will be a nightmare in a couple of years. It already looks bad enough with
the baby knew. The baby knew. The baby was with me as soon as it was signed. Anyone who listens to this show for a while knows that we've called all these bad contracts not the day of, or not 2 weeks later or a year later. Immediately, as soon as I hear them announced, I can tell what's a good contract and what's a bad one. This was a bad contract.
Brian B said, "Get used to the old vets, Grumpy. Trotz is here to stay."
Yeah, like I said, if I was GM, things would change.
I like, and Anthony R says, I like what Zarnak, I like Zarnak too. And he looked good and would like him to play the rest of the year with the club. But remember, he's 29 years old.
That's okay. That's
I
okay.
was gonna say, you should never sign Zarnak to more. Like, let's say he plays fantastic. I think he was only on a 1-year contract at this point.
Give him another
Let's say-
1-year contract.
Let's say a 1 or 2 year deal. I
1
wouldn't be
year.
signing him to a 4 or 5 year contract. Maybe a 2-year deal. Maybe.
1 or 2 years. That's it. The bottom 6 guys. There's a million of them out there. You don't overextend for bottom 6 players. You just don't. It's dumb. If you're going to extend, you extend for high skill players. That's who you extend for, not bottom sixers. We do everything ass backwards. Everything.
Oh, goodness gracious, Grumpy old man. Goodness gracious. Well, Grumpy, got another additional comment here. Otto Koivula scores this evening.
Good for him. Good for him.
I'm about to say, now he's played well. He's almost a near point a game stretch for the Bridgeport Islanders.
Why not give him a shot too?
That's all I'm going to say, Grumpy. He's played well. I mean, like, he's a guy that, you know, people announce his time of death too.
Could he look any worse than Casey Zizekas?
Hey, you're live here with teaching the Grumpy old man. Who do we have calling in?
Jerry Springer, the former mayor of Cincinnati.
What is up, Jerry Springer, former mayor of Cincinnati? How are you?
How you doing today, TJ? How's it going over there, Grump?
Where's Steve Wilkos when you need him?
Yo, Steve Wilkos is the man. Who do you guys think would win in the fight, Jerry Springer or Maury?
Maury Povich. He's scrappy.
How old is Jerry Springer now?
They're both in their 70s. They're both in their 70s.
Man, I'll tell you. Jerry Springer, I think maybe, I don't know, Grumpy. Maybe I'm going Jerry Springer.
No, I'm going Maury Povich.
Yeah, Jerry Springer would take him for sure.
Okay. I'll go with Maury. I think he's got the stamina. He's married to who the heck is he married to? Is he married to Connie Chung still?
I don't know. It beats me.
I couldn't tell you, Grumpy.
But yeah, so what do you guys so I got a question for Grump. Grump, who do you think is top two worst contracts right now?
On the Islanders?
Yeah.
Anders Lee and Casey Zizekas.
Wow, Casey's got the second worst contract just because I guess he's got so much term still tied to it.
It's term. Anders Lee.
What do you mean? You got 2 years. You got $2 million, or what is it? 1.5 million.
2.5 over the next 5 years for Casey. So he's got quite some time still left on that contract. And Anders Lee, I think, is a no-brainer for the worst contract. Might not be awful yet. It will be awful later.
Yeah. So, question for TJ: Can you pull up Chara's plus minus? I'm just curious.
Well, I'll pull that up, and I'm sure this is going to give Grumpy a lot of ammunition to go ahead and opine about. But thank you, Jerry Springer, for calling in. As always, Jerry Springer, grumpy old man, former mayor of Cincinnati.
Jerry.
Thanks.
One more question for the Grump. Hold on, one more question for the Grump. So who would you rather trust with your math homework, Piggy or Josh Bailey?
Who's the first one?
Piggy.
Lord of the Flies.
Piggy. I would go with Piggy.
Get the hell out of here. Josh Bailey's very smart, Grump.
Okay, that's true, but Piggy was still doing mathematics in school at the time, where Josh Bailey's done with that.
Everything's on a calculator. I mean, like, if it's just basic mathematics, maybe Piggy's never worked
He said mathematics homework. See, maybe you don't realize what you actually have to do the work.
I don't know. Zdeno Chara is it's actually a +1 this season with the Islanders.
I'm shocked.
I am too. I'm shook. I'm actually kind of shocked by that. It must have been a lot of makeup in the last few games. But thanks so much for calling in, Jerry Springer.
We got you.
You know what I think about that Zdeno Chara thing? Maybe he was so bad early, they just kind of stopped counting. They just hit the reset button. Boop, let's reset this.
No, the last few games, he's a +4 of the last 4 games. But love hearing from Jerry Springer, grumpy old man.
True.
Absolutely. We haven't done one of these call-ins in a while. I like hearing from everybody. I like it, Grumpy. The Islanders should sign Antonio Brown since he needs a new career.
I don't want to go too far off topic, but we had a heated discussion on Thursday night about TJ was defending Antonio Brown, and I just said he's just a worthless POS at this point. And since then, he's thrown Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, the whole Buccaneers organization, Mike Evans, O.J. Howard, everybody under the bus. That tells you all you need to know about him.
Not a good look. He should probably stop. He should stop while he was ahead, in my opinion.
Yeah,
all I'm saying is I can believe both of those stories, and I believe there was enough wiggle room to where both of those stories, what Bruce Arian and Antonio Brown said, were both correct.
And, you know, he did a podcast, and he said, oh, it's not about targets. And then he went on a 15-minute diatribe how he wasn't getting enough targets in that game. That's exactly what happened.
He was definitely upset about targets. There's no doubt about it.
That's what it's about.
The ball wasn't going to him enough. Maybe he's a little banged up. It's not the podcast. We freaking hammered the shit out of this for
and I just want to say
35 minutes last
one last thing. For a guy who said he has ankle tendon damage, needs surgery, he wasn't even using a walking boot of a guy who needs surgery. He's full of shit. He's a liar. Next comment.
James F saying, what's up, guys? What's up, James? How are you? Tommy B saying they're not prospects. They were AHL fodder talking about Joe.
That's true, but they were still guys in the organization, and maybe they filled the need for Jersey.
Anthony R said, let's move on from Devon Taves. It is what it is. We need the offseason to get a second-handed left defenseman. Then we're set on defense. Char and Green will be gone. Pellick, Pulak, Mayfield, Dobson, Salo is a very nice group. I'll tell you this much. If the right deal comes around for Mayfield and you have the ability to trade him, I would this offseason. I would this trade deadline.
Yep.
If somebody Scott Mayfield played extremely well in the playoffs. He's a better playoff defenseman than he is in a regular season. He gets away with a lot more clutching and grabbing. I think his value at the trade deadline would be maybe a first and a second because you have an additional year of cap certainty at 1 point. What is it? 1.5 million?
1.45.
I'll just round up to 1.5 million. You've got 1.5 million of an additional season for a top 4 defenseman. He is going to earn you a freaking pretty penny. If you are in rebuild or retool mode, you could say, all right, Mayfield's gone. We believe we can bring in an additional defense. Maybe it's going to be a little bit more additional on the cost side, but we believe, hey, maybe Salo could slide into a role like that. We've got additional defensemen that can slide into roles.
If you can get a first-round pick plus for Scott Mayfield, and a first-round pick for Varlamov at the trade deadline, now you're starting to make, things are starting to kind of turn around a little bit.
You can use the additional picks to make trades for players.
Forget trades. Forget the trades. Forget the trades. Stop with the trades. This team isn't anywhere near close enough to competing for a Stanley Cup. Not even close.
All I'm going to say is you look at the right defenseman. Ryan Pulak's right. Hold on. Stop, please. Ryan Pulak's a right defenseman. Noah Dobson's a right defenseman. I love Scott Mayfield as a bottom 6 guy across the NHL as a right defenseman. He's going to be a top 4 in the majority of the teams he would play across the league. And if you're telling me you can get a top 4 defenseman, he's not very offensive minded, more of a stay-at-home defenseman type of player, big, bodies people out in front of the net for $1.5 million this season and next season, that's a freaking deal. And you've got there Ryan Pulak as well as Noah Dobson as your top 4. You could find somebody else to fill in as a bottom 6 defenseman, as a bottom 6 right D-man. On the left-handed defense side, right, Char's gone. You've got Pellick. You've got Salo. If Salo could step in and be a top 4 guy next year, maybe shows the ability to, you've got your top 4 solved.
Yeah,
so that's what I'm thinking on that side.
To me, the greatest chance is you're going to have to go out and get a left-handed defenseman in the offseason who can fill that top 4 spot, perhaps. But if you can move Mayfield and get a first-round plus, and here's the thing: do not trade draft picks for players. Just stop doing it. We're nowhere near close enough to contending for a Stanley Cup. We're just not. Just not happening.
All I'm going to say here is this. If the right deal comes around for Scott Mayfield, if it's a first and a second, I'm taking it.
I love Scott Mayfield, but see you later. It's about teams.
He hasn't had a great regular season this year. He didn't have a great regular season last year. He really turned it on in the playoffs. And if you could sell a team on, hey, he's a real playoff performer. This is a guy when the game gets physical and more clutching and grabbing it happens, he can really, play his style and he looks fantastic on the ice. Great. Do it. I would. You still have Pulak and Dobson that are going to be under control for a long time period. Scott Mayfield's going to want to get paid next paycheck. What does he want? He's going to want $3 million plus, maybe 3.5, right? You have to feel like Scott Mayfield. I'm just saying, at least. So now you're going to be paying a bottom 6 defenseman, albeit who's going to play more minutes than what you would play for a bottom 6 defenseman. He's going to be getting paid 3.5, maybe $4 million per.
Yeah, I don't care. They're not going to re-sign him. I mean, I'd move him. I'd move him at the trade deadline. Absolutely. There are certain guys I would absolutely move. If you can move Varlamov, you move him. Scott Mayfield, move. Any of the plethora of useless forwards you have, move.
And I think, and again, I think Samuel Bolduc, right? He's a right defenseman.
He's
And
a left
so is Bodie
defenseman.
Wild, right?
He's
Or
a
Bodie
left
Wild.
defenseman.
Okay, so Bodie Wild.
Bodie Wild's a right defenseman, but it looks like, regardless, I'll bet you he's in the doghouse.
I would assume so as well.
Because he wouldn't acquiesce.
Frank K said, Bailey's a real leader. He'll never be benched. The Armadillo will never sit invisibility, not even for one game.
Well, when you keep making, if you don't learn from your past mistakes, you're doomed to repeat them.
Pudge M saying, play the youth. Couldn't agree more. Warzone Senior Citizen says, Grumpy Old Man, they had to trade Devon Taves. They need a cap space to give Suzuka 6 years. Re-sign Cal Clutterbuck and Martin for the identity line.
They could have moved Nicoletti. Period. And then you would have had extra money even.
Brian B said he'll play where Wilson plays next year. Lost. Right? Alone on the island, abandoned on the island. I don't know. Wilson's at volleyball, isn't it, Grump?
I don't know.
Don't worry about it.
I don't. Wilson was in that Castaway movie as the soccer ball with the handprint, but I don't know where Brian was going with that.
I thought it was a volleyball. Anyway,
maybe it was a volleyball. It was a volleyball.
David D said, hello, fellows. The Cows are playing tonight, 1 and out.
Okay.
Not sure what that means. Actually, the cow. I'm not sure what the Cows are.
Frank Cowgirls. The Cowgirls, maybe. Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, I didn't know that. Frank K said Pajot didn't look healthy and didn't have jump. I thought at the end, before everything started hitting COVID, I thought he did look like his jump was returning a bit.
A little bit, but then he slumped again. It seems like he's only able to sustain it for a couple of games. I still think he's hurt. I think he's hurt. And if he's not, it's a real problem because he's another 3 years at $5 million per for third line center.
David D saying, I ordered my Islanders jersey last week. When to expect it? If it's the Islanders Never Say Die merch.
No, he said, Frank, how are you? I ordered my Islanders jersey last week. When to expect it?
Okay. Gotcha. Fair enough. Misread it. Frank K or Jeremy F. They're saying Bellows and Lee score in different ways. Lee works on the boards. Lee's work on the board is better right now, but with Barzal, you shouldn't have to play dump and crash. Lee should be with a Brock Nelson type.
He's always played well with Brock Nelson and Josh Bailey, as much as I hate to admit it. They've always been a good line together. The three of them have always performed admirably together.
You remember the kid line back in the day of Anders Lee, Brock Nelson, and Ryan Strome?
Now they're the geezer squad.
Now they're all aged veterans, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I tell you. Frank K said Tim Kerr was better.
He was.
Those Flyers went to 2 Stanley Cup finals.
They didn't win, though.
I know Grumpy hates the Flyers. Oh, man.
My question was not, did they go to the Cup finals? They said, how many cups did they win? 0.
Michael T said, let's say
you don't get anything for second place. What did Ricky Bobby say? If you're not first, you're last. Thank you, Philadelphia Flyers.
Michael T said, let's say somehow Barry Trotz is gone from the Islanders. What NHL coaching candidates are available?
Joel Quenneville's available.
No, you've got to get
he's the perfect coach.
Well,
he shouldn't have even been fired for what happened. That was ridiculous.
Okay. And then you're seeing Paul Maurice and Quenneville. Those are, I guess, you're talking about true hockey coaches, the best coaches on paper.
Quenneville. It's Quenneville.
Slowly counting down the days till the next Islanders game. That's right.
Yeah, I can't wait, honestly.
Brian B said, have you watched how Lee skates, TJ?
You can't skate.
JG, Quenneville is technically, if Quenneville coaches, you have to get approval from Gary Bettman to have Quenneville coach.
Hey, they paid Beach off. Why can't this guy coach again? They paid him off. Why can't this guy coach? I just found it interesting.
Just learn there from the situation.
I just found it interesting. Who are the guys who paid the price? Was it the ownership group? Nope. There's good old boys in that ownership group. It was the coach. That's a guy who wasn't even coaching for their organization anymore. He's the guy who lost his job. And Bowman, the GM.
SP said, rest in peace Teddy Ball time.
Yeah, I saw that on Hockey Night in Canada tonight. 16-year-old boy got a skate cut across the throat and bled out and died on the ice. Terrible.
Jeremy Ford said Tortorella also.
Tortorella is
I like
not for this
Tortorella.
team.
I
Not
do
for the
not like
veteran team.
Tortorella.
I'll tell you what, though. You'd see, though, that lazy-ass Josh Bailey, he'd play much better than he does now.
I don't like Tortorella. I never
I-
have. I never have. Maybe it's because his time and stint with the Rangers. He's a guy who always has such a freaking short shelf life where he's good coach for maybe 2-3 seasons and a team tunes him out and says, I want gone. I want this son of SOB gone. It only works when they're winning games. It only works when they're competing for cups. And if they fall off or they slip a little bit, people say, get this SOB out of the room.
Okay.
I don't like Tortorella for that reason.
How many years has Barry Trotz been here?
4 seasons.
Okay.
This is his 4th year.
Okay. And we're talking about moving on from him. You want to know who the longest tenured coach in the NHL is right now?
Who's that?
John Cooper, 10 years in Tampa. And he was on the verge of getting fired 3 years ago, right? Because he hadn't won. So 3 years, if I can get 3 good years out of Tortorella and move on, I'm willing to do that. It's not like the olden days where you see Punch Imlach coaching the Toronto Maple Leafs for 15, 20 years, or Toe Blake, or Al Arbor for that matter, coaching the team for like 15, 20 years. It just doesn't happen anymore. So if you can get a guy to produce for your team for 3 or 4 years and then, move on, that's what you do.
If you feel confident in Lane Lambert, even roll the dice on him. He's known to want to take the next step to an NHL coaching job. He interviewed for the job for the Anaheim Ducks. Was it last year or 2 seasons ago?
2 seasons ago. He didn't even get a sniff this offseason. Why not? I mean, like I said, I don't know, but some guys don't interview well. I'm not saying that he hasn't. I don't know. But you would think that he would get a little bit more look than he has already gotten, just one team.
Yep. I tell you. So I feel like you'd even ask Lambert.
I have a scenario. I think I know what it is. Like Barry has been known to suck the offensive ability out of players. He's also able to suck the coaching resumes off of guys on his staff.
That's not it. Get the hell out of here. Todd Reardon did a fantastic job. Oh, wait a second. Oops. I guess he didn't, Grump.
No. He's a talent killer, that Barry Trotz.
Oh,
he's like in the Harry Potter novels. He's a dementor.
Oh, stop! I don't watch any.
He's a dementor. He sucks the soul right out of you.
Oh, come on, Grumpy. Hey, you're live here with TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. Who do we have calling in?
Brandon. What's up, guys?
What's up, Brandon Fry? How are you?
Good. I just wanted to call in and basically 2 things. One, I'm concerned about when we do get going again. We're going to be nonstop, one game after another. I'm concerned that we're going to run out of gas either before the playoffs and not make the playoffs, or even if we do make it through this stretch and find a way into a playoff spot, that we won't have enough stamina to go on a long playoff run after, because I don't think we're going to have more than 2 days off once the rest of the way based off all the games we're going to have to reschedule.
Gotcha. And what's the other question, Brandon?
Oh, and the other one is, what do you guys think of, I know it probably won't happen, but if the Islanders miss the playoffs, with Barry Trotz's contract up, what would you think about maybe letting him go and naming Lane Lambert the head coach? With him being younger, maybe he can keep the goalie coaches and all intact.
I don't think, and I'll let you touch on that first here, Grumpy, regarding the schedule. And thanks, Brandon, for calling in. We're going to get to it because those are some in-depth pieces of discussion, because I think, we'll dive into it deep, both of the scheduling. Is that going to hurt us with an older team, even if we're able to catch some momentum and win? Are we going to see the sales die out towards the end of the year? And if after Barry's contract expires here, what are the routes going forward? Thanks for calling in, Brandon. We're going to go ahead and get to those topics. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Brandon. Okay. Suppose, we mentioned the schedule. Our schedule is hella tough at the end.
Nature's hella pissed.
What?
You don't. It's never mind. Go ahead. Continue.
It's bad. It's a really, really tough schedule at the end, right?
And you play devil's advocate with the schedule, right? You could say a lot of those teams, the last six out of the last 7 games are all going to be teams in the playoffs. You could say maybe they've cemented their spot in. Maybe they're going to be, looking a little bit ahead to the playoffs, and maybe we can catch those teams.
But they're playing for seeding at that point. I mean, they're
the
not.
Islanders gave up on the seeding last year. It's not something most teams do, but the Islanders did give up on seeding and said, "Hey, we're going to kind of, take our foot off the pedal for a bit. We're going to just
okay." I'm going to tell you what they're not going to. If you can have a chance for the first seed, you're going for it. If you have a chance for the second seed, you're going for it. This year is a little bit different. You were just playing interconference last year, so it's a little bit different this year. Okay, so for me, that schedule is really, really tough down the stretch. I wouldn't count on us winning many of those games.
It equates to about a game every other day. I think we get a few days where we have 2 days of break, but there are no 3 or 4 day breaks. I'll pull up the schedule to confirm, but we're going to have what's the equivalent, grumpy old man, to about a game every other day from the time period when we start on the 10th until current. So that's kind of how that looks.
Yeah, everybody else is in the same boat pretty much. I mean, I know with this last 12-day break, but we were just about even with everybody before this last break that we've had. So, I mean, it just is what it is. My concern is always with an older team, as we've shown the last couple of years, we kind of slow down at the end because we kind of run out of gas. Not just because they're older, it's because the style that we play, which is a physical brand of hockey, and we didn't even have to play full years the last 2 years. Now you're going to be playing the full 82 with a really condensed schedule down the stretch. I just don't think we're making the playoffs. But for me, is Barry going to do some creative lineups then to rest some of the veterans, to rest some of the guys, to play some of the younger players the majority of the time because they have more spring in their legs? We're going to find out pretty soon here.
Just looking at the schedule, right? In February, right now, there's that time period from the 2nd until the 23rd that's kind of left vacant at the moment because that was penciled in for the Olympics. I'm sure that, when the schedule kind of gets and when it gets updated here, I'm sure there's going to be more games filled in through that time period. Now, the only time after February the 23rd, we have more than a 2-day break is in April 10th to the 13th. Other than that, the max we have is 2 days off. So you're going to get a lot of games within a short time period for certain, Grump. And what we're going to do, and with the age veterans, that's going to hurt. We do have a caller on the line, Grump, and we're going to touch on Lane Lambert and talking about that here as soon as we get this in here. So,
okay.
So give me 1 sec as I link that in. I think it's Paul F. Hey, oh man, my phone's messing up. I apologize, Grump.
Okay, well, I'll talk about Lane Lambert while you get that straightened up. One thing that I had not considered, and actually was a really good point by Brandon, would be if Mitch Korn and Pierre Greco leave, or if they stay if Lane Lambert is here. I hadn't even considered that, honestly.
We'll talk about it. And then Paul, grumpy old man, Paul's on the line. Hey, Paul, how are you?
Paul has a very rhythmic speech patterns.
Yes, for certain he does. Oh man, I'll tell you. Hey, Paul, you're on the line. How are you this evening?
Hey, TJ. Hey, Grump. How are y'all doing tonight?
Not too bad, Paul. How about yourself?
I think it's time to embrace the apathy, guys. Embrace the apathy. It's time to expect this team is not going to make the playoffs. I want all the listeners, please, it's time to accept this team is crap. We have to sell. Then, number 2, we have to sell. And number 3, we have to put Barry Trotz's head on a freaking pike. We should go what Vancouver did. We should all be chanting "Fire Trotz." I am like I told y'all before. I'm going to the Stars game in April. I am literally going to get in as early as possible. Barry Trotz, I will yell constantly and troll that armadillo as hard as I can. Play the youth. Why do you like masturbating with Chara? Why do you like constantly doing these crazy things with old men? And why will you not play the youth? And I'm going to trash Josh Bailey. I'm going to see if I can. I'm going to trash Green. I'm going to tell Chara to retire. I'm going to go jump on the ice and break his legs with the pipe.
No, come on.
Yeah, that's what he deserves. I am most frustrated that Islanders fans have not tried to bum rush the ice and try and break Chara's legs because he refuses to retire.
We're not. No, it's not. It's not that. It's not that bad. I'll let you respond. I know, Grumpy.
Oh my
This is.
God,
This is.
he's a statue. He's a statue. He does nothing. The man does nothing. He will refuse to believe he can still skate. I can skate faster than him. I don't know how to skate.
There you
Grumpy,
go.
I'll let you
On the
respond.
ice.
I'll let you respond, Grumpy.
I don't think there's anything wrong with what he said, honestly.
Oh, come on. Here's
Thank you, Grumpy.
The only thing I just want to know, what would you do to Anders Lee?
Anders Lee, okay. I would have a nice long chat with him because he's a very nice person, and I think he'll realize when he needs to retire and say, Anders, you should ask for your contract to be terminated and to renegotiate to a proper level. That's what I asked Anders Lee to do.
No,
he's
he's
not. Ask him to restructure his contract and negotiate to where it's proper. I think he'll realize, yes, I should have been asked for less money because I knew I am worth less money. I think he would actually be a good human being and do it.
No, Paul.
I believe in his humanity better than Zdeno Chara, who still believes he can play in the AHL when he should be retiring. I don't care about Chelios's record. The dude someone needs to break his legs and tell him it's time to retire. Get the pipes, guys. Time to retire that old ass check.
Oh, thanks for the call in, Paul. We appreciate it. Paul, man,
guys, have a good one.
Thanks, Paul. Paul is bringing the fire tonight. My goodness gracious.
Okay. Honestly, I didn't know what he said that was wrong.
You're not going to be breaking people's legs out there.
No,
I know he's being hyperbolic.
I wish Paul just would have said, instead of saying about the pipe, all he should have said was, I'd like to see Zdeno Chara get galulied. That's all he had to say. And I think it would have been a little bit sharper with that. But other than that, I don't have much disagreement with what he said. I'm not saying we should go after Zdeno Chara, of course. And it's more like embrace the suck is what we should do. It's time to move on from this group of players. You've gone as far as you can with them. It's time to let's do a retool a little bit.
I'm gonna ask Paul to do one thing. Paul, I've got something for you, man. I want us to wait until next Saturday to see if we're continuing to play the young guys. Here's the thing. If we roll out the old players and act as if the performances from Kiefer Bellows, the performances from Noah Dobsons, the performances for Robin Salos, the performances we've seen for Oliver Wahlstrom, if that's all for naught and we're just going to roll out the same aged veterans in the same lineup we saw on opening night, I will say embrace the suck. Season's over for certain. That's time to embrace the suck. For certain it is. If we have the younger guys in, I'd say they perform better than the older veterans at this point. I'm not saying embrace the suck at that point. I'm saying terrific. Look what we have to look forward to. We might not make the playoffs, but we have young pieces around. Don't necessarily embrace the suck. This team still has another breath of wind in it.
Okay. I guess maybe embrace the youth.
That's what I'm saying. Embrace the youth, and I think embrace the suck. If we are going to roll out the vets night in and night out who have not performed, there's certain veterans that have not performed. Josh Bailey, i.e. Kyle Palmieri, i.e. Zach Parise. If we continue to roll those guys out, and despite performance, that is when I say embrace the suck.
Actually, I think we've been embracing the suck by playing those guys every game.
That's how we're tanking. And I know that he's just joking around. He's being hyperbolic. Paul is not actually going to be
okay, first of all, you don't have to make excuses for Paul. He spoke his point. He said what he wanted to say. You don't have to try to clarify things.
Okay, fair enough, Grumpy. Tommy B said, Kiefer Bellows is under team control. Different when you have an unrestricted free agent status. And then Drew also said, maybe. Oh, let me get back to the Lane Lambert conversation, Grump. I'm sorry before we get sidetracked there from Brandon Fry's point. He did say when Trotz's contract is up, do you think Lane Lambert, number one, is a suitable replacement for Trotz? And do you think that Pierre Greco and Mitch Korn would be willing to stay with Lane Lambert if he does say, yes, I'm going to be the new head coach of the Islanders? Would they stay?
I think that they're probably more loyal to Trotz than they are to Lambert.
Yes. I don't know where the loyalty lies or how long Lambert has been with Barry. I'll have to look up how long Lambert has been with Barry Trotz, but Remember, he brought Pierre Greco and Mitch Korn from Washington to the Islanders as well.
Here's one thing, though. These owners have deep pockets, and I think while they're loyal to Barry Trotz, maybe they'd be more loyal to George Washington or Andrew Jackson or Benjamin Franklin or Ulysses S. Grant or James Madison. Just saying.
Yeah, I tell you.
I give him the money.
Talks.
Yeah. I mean, nothing wrong with that. Offer him more to stay. I mean, you can, everybody's got a price for the $1 million man, Ted DiBiase. So
everybody's got a price. I'm trying to pull
those brats out of the pool. I thought so. Get those brats out of the pool. Ted DiBiase was great. The $1 million man character was spectacular back in the day.
He was, think about it, Lane Lambert was with Barry Trotz during that Stanley Cup run and win with the Washington Capitals. So he's got, you talk about the relationship he's had probably with Pierre Greco and Mitch Korn. It's more than 5+ years.
Yeah, it's going to, they go with, like I said, you'll have to overpay to keep them. Otherwise, I think they'd leave with Trotz. When Trotz gets another job, and he would get another job because, like, as much as I bag on Barry Trotz, and he is what he is, he's still a damn good coach, and he's going to get another job.
He's a fantastic coach.
Yeah.
Fantastic coach. Again, top 10 coach in the league, but sometimes, stylistically, you may have to shake things up a bit. That's all.
We just need to change sometimes. That's why I'm saying, John Tortorella, okay. You say, well, he'd only last 3 or 4 years. How long do coaches last now?
So to give you a little bit of a piece of information on Lane Lambert. Lane Lambert he originally joined the Nashville Predators in the 2007. So he's been with Barry Trotz. He was with him in Nashville from 2007 to 2011. When Trotz left Nashville, he went to the Washington Capitals with Trotz, was there for his entire tenure with the Capitals, and then with the Islanders here. So,
well, that's fine. But, if he's offered a head coaching gig, you think he'd be loyal to Trotz? I don't think so. If he wants to be a head coach and you're offered the job and you say no, well, guess what, bro? You're never getting a head coaching job.
I'm sorry. So he actually coached at the AHL affiliate level until the 2011 season. Once 2011, he's been with Trotz. So he knows Pierre Korn and Pierre Greco and Mitch Korn very well, right? You're talking about 10+ years of relationship with them. So I might, the money I think could maybe be the deterrent, where if it was a brand new coach, I'm not sure, the money would play as much of a role as it. I mean, they know Lane Lambert very well. So you have to feel like they've got some sort of comfortability with him the same way they did with Trotz. Maybe not to the extent, but they still do have comfortability factor that, yes, we know what Lane Lambert's about. I wouldn't be opposed to something like that. Again, I liked what I saw, a little bit more of a jump. I mean, we only saw a 2-game sample size with Lane Lambert. And that's one of those things, guys. He's a fiery coach, at least from what we watch. When you watch on the bench, he is more of an energy and passion coach than Barry Trotz is. Not saying it's a good thing, not saying it's a bad thing.
It's a good thing.
I think sometimes it could be good things, sometimes it could be a bad thing. Because when you have a coach that could be a little bit of a hothead, and I'll use that term very, very, probably not the best term to use, but if you have a coach that can be very emotional, sometimes it actually negatively impacts the team. Sometimes it's definitely positive, and sometimes it's positive. Sometimes it could be negative.
Okay.
But again, he's got a lot of experience. Been to those cups, won the cup there with Trotz. He's an experienced coach. He's ready for the next step. I will tell you that much.
Well,
Drew L said, you think that maybe Barry is keeping the young guys minutes limited so Lou doesn't have to pay him a bag?
No. Nope.
Mm-hmm. I don't. And JG says here, I don't think that this team would respond to a guy like Tortorella.
Well, you know what? The country club atmosphere where everybody has a spot has to change.
Gotcha.
I mean, best players should play. That's not the case here. There is no competition for spots. Never has been since Trotz has been here. Never.
Josh Bailey said, "Hey, there's competition for spots now." That's what
he's not. Maybe he's not as smart as they keep saying he is.
Tommy B says Varlamov is worth a first-round pick. Most first-round picks don't actually make it to the NHL till they're 21 or 22 years old.
That's fine. I don't care. I want as many as I can get.
Anthony Duclair. Yep. Thanks for that, Joel. And then Frank K said Edmonton is the perfect fit for Varlamov. I was about to say, I think if you're a goalie and you go to Edmonton, you say, holy shit.
He'll get exposed there.
I'm about to say it's very easy to get exposed in Edmonton. They're going to be giving up a lot of chances, and you've got to be a fantastic netminder. I mean, you wonder what Vasilevsky or Shesterkin's numbers would look like in Edmonton. I'm not saying they'd be deplorable, but they definitely wouldn't be as good as they are currently.
Yeah, you'd have to stop a lot of breakaways, a lot of odd man chances. They're not a great team defensively. They're not. That's where Varlamov benefits, just like Robin Leonard and Thomas Greiss before him, all benefited from playing in this system.
Michael T saying he doesn't see Varlamov bringing in a first rounder, let alone something else. Okay. Fair enough. We would see. I don't think they're going to move Varlamov, but if they do and they're sellers at the deadline, I think he's going to get a pleasant return for us. Drew L says, yeah, people didn't like Duclair because I think from what I heard from Tortorella said that he may have had an attitude problem, yet you hear none of this while he's in Florida.
That's Joel Quenneville for you. Joel Quenneville is the best coach in the NHL, best coach not in the NHL. And earlier this year, he was the best coach in the NHL. He's the best coach in the league.
Who the hell? And one of the Sutter brothers, Grump. Who the hell was it?
Daryl Sutter. Daryl Sutter's really good too.
I know Daryl Sutter likes to be on the West Coast, and he's old and up there now. He hasn't taken a job. Daryl Sutter used to be chef.
Well, he's with Calgary now.
Oh, he's with Calgary?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
Yeah.
I got to look up what Calgary's record is. Daryl
Calgary's really good. He's turning them around this year. Done a really good job. He's a good coach. He's a defense first guy too, but they don't abandon the offense like they do here. I mean, Jacob Markstrom has looked great in goal for them this year. They lost Giordano, no loss there. They're playing extremely well, Calgary.
Currently 33 games played, 40 points on the season for Calgary, sitting in third in their division, but they do have 3 games in hand over the Anaheim Ducks and 4 games in hand over the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah.
So again, a team that is looking like they're definitely in the playoff picture. That's for certain. Let's talk a little second about the Anaheim Ducks. Man, oh man, the Ducks have performed this year, Grump.
Yep. Amazing what happens when you move a bunch of veterans out and you just start playing younger players. Amazing.
Yeah, I tell you. And I mean, you got some reason to be excited if you're a Ducks fan. That's for certain. That being said, it's not Ducks podcast. But Scott L said, not everyone, just Lou overpays.
There you go, Scott. Exactly right.
I think he's a top goalie too, Tommy B. I think his value in the league is that of a top goalie. That's all. Matthew S said, if they think they have a goaltending problem, but still think that they can make the playoffs, then they will make the trade for first round pick. Edmonton, cough, cough. And then what did Tyler Toffoli go for?
Well, how long ago was he traded? Was it 2 years ago? I don't think it was last year, was it? And I think it was a first round pick, but I don't think much more.
Toffoli was traded for nickels, if I remember correctly, right?
I don't remember.
He was traded for pennies.
Okay.
Tyler Toffoli was traded for a second round pick in the 2020 NHL draft and the rights for Tim Shaler and Tyler Madden. Because I remember when that trade happened, I'm like, why the hell were we not pounding on the door for Tyler Toffoli?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, not everyone gets traded for a king's ransom, but Lou Lamoriello, he'll give up anything for the guys he wants. He'd care less. He's just about 80 years old. What the hell? I ain't going to be around when the chickens come home to roost, Bobby Boucher.
Oh, man. And again, even on that Montreal team, he's still he's 29 years old. I mean, he's getting up there in age. But I mean, 17 points on that miserable Montreal team should tell you something. I mean, even, again, bad teams have players that score, but still. George P. said, my God, this is unlistenable. Trotz continues to play underperforming veterans. We have no cap. We need more than one player to fix our current situation. A project player is a waste of time.
I don't know,
George.
Maybe
they're talking about what I would ask for as a price for Varlamov.
Oh, you think? Well, maybe it was Chychrun.
No, it was Varlamov, Grump. They because remember, I wanted a project player, and a first round pick. But Michael T said you gotta help. You gotta help for Barzal for the love, for love of all that's holy already. You got to get help for Matt Barzal.
You got to get him signed first.
JG says, "What do you guys think about the Sharks waiving Evander Kane?" I'm gonna leave that to you, Grump, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, we knew that was coming. He was never, after everything that the league went on with COVID, and he went in on this off season with the the illegal vaccination card, the gambling thing, the ex-wife / girlfriend, I don't know what. Everyone knew that he was going to get released sooner or later. He's 30 years old. His career is over. I don't see anyone taking a shot on him. Not in the NHL. The NHL is not the NFL or the NBA. It's just not going to happen. If a guy's a problem, they just write him off. And I don't think his talent level, honestly, is commensurate with giving him another chance. You'd have to be desperate to sign Evander Kane. His numbers were down anyway. He's never been a good team guy, no matter where he's been, either Winnipeg or Buffalo or San Jose. And the biggest condemnation of him this offseason was that not one of his San Jose teammates stuck up for him. Not a one. They did not want him on the team. That's the biggest concern if you're Evander Kane. It's like, nobody on my team wants me. How marketable could you be? If you go to another general manager and says, yeah, I want to play there, say, well, what happened in San Jose? Oh, nothing. I was loved there, blah, blah, blah. You can't even say that. They all wanted him gone.
So I will say this about Evander Kane. You say the talent's kind of falling off a bit. You look at production. He is 30 years old. He has a laundry list. And I say laundry list, I mean a laundry list of issues. He's been a problem, quote unquote, everywhere he's been. They said that maybe he fixed things in San Jose originally when he moved there, and that's why he signed that big contract. Yeah, not so much. I do want to show you. You said his stats were not good as of recent, Grump. I'll just show you the stats here of Evander Kane, because remember, he was with the AHL affiliate this year. They immediately sent him down. You're talking about a guy, even last season, 2020, 2021, 56 games played, 49 points, -1. Talking about he was in the AHL this season, 5 games played, 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points, +3. The guy still can play, I would say, but I mean, if he's on the cheap, if you feel the Islanders, let's be honest here, the Islanders would never bring in a guy like Evander Kane.
No one's going to bring him in. No one's going to bring him in.
What makes you say that?
Because it's the NHL. It's not the NFL, not the NBA. Just not going to happen. His talent is not commensurate with giving him another chance. His teammates didn't want him there. When your teammates are vocal saying they want you gone, what GM is going to take that headache on?
What's wrong with a 1-year contract? A 1-year prove a deal, and if not, you just cut his ass.
Because GMs talk to one another. That's why.
I'm just saying,
he's a bad guy. You don't want him in your organization.
I'm saying he's definitely a bad apple. Is what it seems to be.
There you go.
But the talent's there. Maybe this was. I'd like to think. Here's it. I always am in the camp that eventually one day people wake up and they say, "Holy crap, what's happened?" And they come in and they say, "All right, I'm contrite for the mistakes I've made." And for him being out of the NHL, it's going to take a while for it to like kick in for him. But I feel like it does kick in, even for athletes that make mistakes and they don't quite grasp the situation they're in. When they're out of the league and they're not receiving any phone calls and they're just sitting on the couch and saying, "Holy crap, what can I do to get back in it?" You're going to see sometimes mentalities change. There has to be that rock bottom point. Has Evander Kane hit rock bottom after being waived by the San Jose Sharks? I'm not sure. If he has, I think it's worth taking a 1-year flyer on a guy like that. He puts up points. I'm not saying he's going to pan out. And if he doesn't, you could just get rid of him as easy as a wash of the hands. Say, hey, we're going to give you a 1-year prove a deal. Can you go ahead and show that you can keep your nose clean? It's a 1-year league vet minimum. If not, I'm just cutting your ass, or I'm burying you in the A, and we're going to waive you, and we'll take a little $750K fine, or we'll take a $750K cap hit. You're just going to be gone. If day one happen, or even a PTO next season. I don't think there's anything wrong with a PTO to see, hey, if he really has changed it. Do you think your coach feels comfortable with the change? If not, just say goodbye.
I think he's done.
You don't even think he'll get a PTO?
No, he's a bad teammate. Like Antonio Brown is never playing the NFL again. This is the third spot that he's had problem with. Third time.
Fourth. Oh, you're talking about for Evander Kane. It's
for Evander Kane. This is the third stop that he shot his way out of town, and none of his teammates like him. It is what it is. I mean, I don't think he's getting another shot.
The talent's there, but the locker room issues and baggage seem to also accompany it. If you could get rid of the baggage and locker room issues, I think it's worth it, but I'm just not sure it could happen.
Well, it's not happening this year.
Gotcha, grumpy old man. Jeremy F said, what I wanted to know about Varlamov move is if they're going to be able to do with a $5 million cap space gain. Do you put it towards a left defenseman or a top line winger?
Well, you're not going to be able to do anything. If you trade him at the trade deadline, you're not going to be able to get anything for him.
We're talking about in the offseason. Do you use it for a guy like Forsberg, or do you use it for a left? You would use it in the offseason a left-handed defenseman?
Here's the thing. I don't think there's any left-handed defenseman out there worth spending a whole lot of money. I think that's a bigger issue, is a veteran left-handed defenseman if you're going to lose Chara and Green. I don't think Salo's ready to step up into a top 4 spot. But, you know, I don't know. I don't think Lindholm was that great, or Klingman is one of those guys who's going to be like 30 years old. I'm not throwing money at guys like that. I just refuse to. So,
do you think the Islanders are going to be heavy on Philip Forsberg this offseason? The guy's got 26 games played, 18 goals, 11 assists, 29 points, and a +2. Given he'll never produce a point per game average with the Islanders, but he would be a desperate need for a top line winger to provide for Matt Barzal. Could you imagine a Philip Forsberg on the left-hand side, Matt Barzal centering that line with Oliver Wahlstrom on the right-hand side next year? Could you imagine how deadly that line would be?
Who are you going to move out of all your veterans who have long-term contracts? That's what people keep forgetting. You have veterans with long-term deals, all in your top 6. What are you going to do with them? You have to move someone else out. That's why I said you can't sign everybody long-term deals, because now you can't do anything unless you move someone. And those contracts make it really tough to move players. Who's the most movable player who signed to a long-term deal for the Islanders? Anthony Beauvillier, right? Because he's a young guy. Is Josh Bailey movable? Is Kyle Palmieri?
You'd have to give up something to move Josh Bailey, right? Josh Bailey still, after this year, has 2 years left on his contract.
Oh, gosh, it's just the nightmare that just keeps occurring every single year and every single night.
I'm just saying we're going to have cap space this offseason. We're going to have projected cap space of around, like 14 million? 15 million of projected cap space this offseason. And the guys that we would have to re-sign are Noah Dobson, Robin Salo. We would let Chara and Andy Green go. We would have to, I assume we're going to let Zach Parise go. So we'd have to re-sign Noah Dobson, Robin Salo, Kiefer Bellows, and I assume we're letting Cal Clutterbuck walk.
Okay. Like I said, this team is just so poorly constructed. You have to break it down before you can build it back up. I don't care about bottom 6 guys. I'm talking about your top 6 guys. Anders Lee has 5 years left on his deal? 4 years for
after this year, 4 years left on this deal.
Okay, so 4 more years, 3 years for Brock Nelson, 3 more years for Kyle Palmieri. I mean, Josh Bailey has 2 more years. You're going to have to move some of those guys out to bring in guys who are top 6 types. You have to lose some guys off of there. I mean, you're not going to see Anders Lee playing on the 3rd line when his play slips. I mean, that's why you don't give guys in their 30s long-term deals. They never wind up performing up to the specifications, and then you're stuck with them. I tried moving some of those guys now. I'd sell it as, we're rebuilding, fellas. We want to send you to contender. That's how I sell it.
Jeremy F. saying, yes, that's me on the 18th hole at the old course in St. Andrews.
Very nice. Good for you.
Wearing my Islanders hat, of course.
I'll tell you what, they wouldn't even let me on that course. They say, get out of here. We have enough greenskeepers. Enough guys who mow the lawns.
And then Frank K. Palmieri shouldn't crack the lineup until Bellows looks like crap. He sucks.
Bellows should not miss a game the rest of the year. He should play every game the rest of the year, Even if he does look crappy, I don't care. We'll talk to you, but you're going to get your regular shift. You're going to get your regular minutes. Play yourself through it. That's what they should do.
Say it again one more time, Grump.
If Bellows starts having a little bit of stretch where he's not playing well, I don't bench him. I talk to him. I say, hey, you're going to play every night. Get yourself out of this funk because we believe in you and we want you to be one of our top 6 guys going forward. See what that does for his confidence. I don't want to see what he's done in the past with him, which is if he makes one mistake in a game, he gets ripped in the press and then benched for the rest of the year. That's when you got guys who are afraid to play their game. Everyone's not going to have a great game every night.
Frank K saying Boston would love to have Kyle Palmieri.
Move him.
I think he's well, who knows? Michael T said this team is not going to go 8-2 in their next 10 games. Sorry to burst your bubble, but there's no freaking way. We have a very, you look at the schedule, we have a lot of very winnable games against the lower tier teams in the NHL, and they're all at home. The next 10 games are all at home.
I think that if we didn't go 8-2 or 7-3 at the worst, there's no shot of us making it.
That's what I said. I said if we don't come away, 14 points on this stretch of the next 10 games is looked at as okay, we didn't do a great job. We need to do better. 8-2 is looked at as a successful homestand over this next stretch. When you look at the teams we play, anything less than 7-3, and it has been unacceptable. It's the season's done. You look at it. You got to come in with a lot of points over these home games. There are a lot of winnable teams you're playing against. Seriously, an 8 or 9 wins is, hey, that's a real success. Or 10. I wouldn't mind all 10, but that would be a 12-game winning streak we would be on. So.
I feel that we keep saying this, that we need to go at least 7-3 in 10-game stretches, and we don't do it, and we just push it to the next 10-game stretch.
There's no pushing it after this stretch. 6-4, season's over.
Well, there was no pushing it in the last time we said it, and somehow we're pushing it to this next 10-game stretch.
Okay, no. Remember what I said? If we won a few games and we came in with points over that last stretch, we won the last 2 games and lost in overtime. I think 3 games ago. So we come away with 5 out of the last 6 points. I got to look that back up. It's been so long since we played. But I'm just saying you got to come in with 16 points. 14 bare minimum. Anything less than 7-4 or 7-3 season is all she wrote. That's all I'm saying.
I'm going to ask it the question again to everyone out there. Is just squeaking into the playoffs and getting blown out in the first round, would you consider that a success?
I will say this. I thought we just squeaked in the playoffs last year and 2 years ago. We just squeaked in the playoffs. We're not winning division anytime soon. We haven't done it since Trotz has been here. But every time we make the playoffs, we're winning at least a round or 2. We're making it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I thought last year, the way our team was playing around the playoff time period, we were freaking done. We were losing games ad nauseum. We weren't playing good hockey. It looked like the team was unmotivated, gassed, even during a shortened season. And they get to the playoffs, and albeit they played against teams with goalies, one that had a torn hip labrum that needed surgery that he didn't recover from until January 22nd of this year. Here we're talking about Tuukka Rask and Tristan Jarry, who just shit the bed and could not make a save high glove side to save his life.
He was blind.
From that, yes.
They played a blind goalie in the first round, and they played a guy with one hip.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying here, Grump. I know we kept pushing it off, but over the last 3 games, with a possible 6 points, we came away with 5. All I'm saying here is if you look at it and say, if we come away with 16 points out of these next 10 games.
We did our thing with 10 games, and the only game we missed was the Washington game, and there was no way we could have made the point total we said we had to, and we pushed it again. We wound up pushing it again. We played these 3 games, and now we're saying the next 10-game stretch. So in essence, we just skipped 3 games and then went to a next 10-game stretch. Here's the thing. We're not making the playoffs.
Okay. And then Mario says here, the problem with the Trotz counterpoint of the offensive style is that the Islanders are too slow to counterpunch.
True. Where we had some guys who could jump into the play a little bit last year. I think that as the players age out, they don't skate as well, and sometimes that half a stride where you can't get back in the defensive zone is the same half a stride that you can't get that jump as a counterattack.
Brett W. says, the more I witness Trotz's defensive first style, the more I'm shocked with how he coexisted with Ovechkin as long as he did.
Ovechkin, I don't think Ovechkin liked him myself. I don't think Ovechkin liked him. And I think they just tolerated one another. Ovechkin didn't even buy into the system till the last year.
And as soon as he bought him, they won a cup.
They won a cup, and then that was that.
Ovechkin's doing pretty shitty this season, Grumpy. Remember we asked, hey, when is Ovechkin going to fall off? He has fallen off the map this year, Grumpy. 35 games, only 50 points and 24 goals. He's only one of the top 3-point producers in the NHL at this point. You know, we ask the question every single season, when are we going to start to see some of these vets that are up there in age? When is a 36-year-old Alexander Ovechkin going to show signs of age? Well, sure shit isn't this year.
The problem with Washington,
when I see stuff like that, Grumpy, it's nuts. 36 years old, 50-point production, 50 points already through 35 games this year. It's nuts.
Supremely talented players who take care of themselves are able to play longer than normal players. It's just because of their skill level. And Washington, when Trotz and Ovechkin were there together, they just couldn't beat Pittsburgh. That was their bugaboo team, was Pittsburgh.
The last 2 seasons, Ovechkin, again, they were shortened seasons, but he didn't even average a point a game. I say it like that. He didn't even average a point a game, but he didn't average a point a game, right? 2 years ago or last season, he had, 45 games played, 42 points. And then 2 years ago, which was the COVID year, he had 68 games played, 67 points, but did lead the NHL in goals scored.
So he was really close to a point a game player.
He was close to a point a game. He is 15. He's got 15. I mean, like Grumpy, he's averaging like 1.5, 1.4 points a game right now.
Well, he's having a resurgence year.
Nuts.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he's more familiar with Laviolette's system this year. Maybe he's got a little bit more freedom. I mean, I don't watch enough Washington games to tell you, to be honest with you. But I always felt that I thought Reardon was a terrible coach.
Yes.
And cost Washington. But I think Laviolette is an excellent coach. And after last year's, learning curve year, whatever, they've really stepped up this year.
I'm just talking about point production wise and goals scored. The 2 years that Reardon was there, Alexander Ovechkin led the NHL. He won the Maurice Rocket Richard Award, most goals scored in the NHL. That's not, it's not all about personal awards and accolades. I'm just saying he does seem a little bit more comfortable. And man, he leads the NHL in plus minus right now. Even strength goals. I apologize.
Well, one thing he does is score goals. You need to score to win.
Absolutely. Jeremy Ford, talking about project players, says Tony DeAngelo. And this is what I mean. This is why you can't just dismiss project players. Sometimes they pan out, sometimes they don't. I'm willing to take a gamble on a guy like that. Tony DeAngelo, he's got 24 points so far in 26 games with the Hurricanes. Would you have tried to pick him up with the strength of this team in the dressing room, or would you have just said no way?
Here's the thing. What's the strength of the locker room in Carolina? Maybe you just need a change of scenery. Maybe it was the team that he played for.
He had issues in the locker room. I mean, again, we're not gonna lie. He definitely did have issues in that Rangers. Not gonna say they were alleged. There were definitely issues.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is maybe some guys just need a change of scenery. And I mean, do I think that Tony DeAngelo is the greatest player ever? No. But it seems like he's gone to a team that they kind of run things a little bit different down in Carolina, and it's helped rejuvenate his career. Maybe, as you said, TJ, he's a guy who just needed a little bit of a wake-up call, and he's gotten it, and he's performed really, really well for them.
And that's my point, right? And I wonder if Evander Kane would ever hit that wake-up call, because Tony DeAngelo is talented. There's no doubt about it. He needed the wake-up call. And maybe the issue and the poor decisions he made in locker room, the poor word choice that he had, and what had caused him essentially to leave the Rangers was the wake-up call that he needed, spending the year in the A and essentially being said, hey, your career is done here, kid. And he gets his chance, and he really runs with it in Carolina. Is that finally the point where Evander Kane's at? Does he finally have that wake-up call? If he does, I'm definitely all over a PTO. But maybe I'm in the minority there. I just think the talent is still there. And if you can get him on a PTO and nobody else is going to sign him to a contract, man, take a chance.
I think the gambling thing and the vaccination thing in today's environment, it's just a bridge too far for all these teams.
Frank K. said Ovechkin basically told him to F off, talking about Trotz.
I don't think they really got along. I know that Ovechkin did give credit, I believe, to Trotz when they did win the cup, but I don't think they really got along, if you know what I mean. It wasn't until Ovechkin had full buy-in that last year that it opened the door for them, and they had some things break their way. And, sometimes it's all it takes to win a cup. And I was glad when Washington won and Ovechkin won that year. I was rooting for them because I like to see great players at the tail end of their careers. I'd like to see them go out with a cup win. I really do. And he's been a great player for a long, long time. No denying that.
Swerve 951 says, vote for Zach Parise for NHL All-Star for the Islanders. Yeah, there we go. And then Mario said, what I saw is that some players were considering not going to the All-Star game if selected. Okay, maybe that's what I saw. They would not go because of the COVID and the environment it was.
Well,
I saw something about the All-Star game. Maybe, okay, that's maybe what I saw.
You might see players say, you know what? Screw that. I'm not going because it's only just a cash cow for the league. They get nothing out of that.
Tommy B said, Devontae's is given away for nothing. One of those picks got us Ratu. Well, you could have gotten a higher pick and still picked Ratu there with it. I'm just saying Ratu fell to us. So we were very fortunate that he did. So you got Ratu, but essentially if you could have got maybe a first, okay, Devontae should have gone for 2 firsts, bare freaking minimum. You could have traded back and acquired 2 or 3 second-round picks and picked Ratu still. I'm just saying it was bad asset management. Nick D said, hey, Grump, TJ, how you doing tonight? What's up, Nick D? I think Grumpy said it in the beginning of the season. It's going to be Barry or Barzal, which I think their contracts end at the same time, but I'm not sure.
For me, if Matt Barzal does not sign this, you need to have frank conversations with both parties here. I don't think Barzal likes playing under Barry's system. Would you, if you're an offensive skill player?
Probably not.
Nope.
His contract does not expire until 2022-2023 season. After 2023. So this next year is his last year. They do expire the same season.
Okay. You need to talk to both guys. And like I said, to me, you got to have the first conversation with Barry and just say, this is the direction we want to go. And if he says doesn't want to do it, goodbye. I think that opens a door for Barzal. And then you have to say to Barzal, you're our centerpiece. We're going to build around you. What do you need? First thing we need from you, though, is to lock in long-term, and we'll do whatever you like. He's the one talented player on the whole team.
Cedric Wilson, Grump, does that name stack? Does that name?
He plays for Dallas, took over Michael Gallup's place since he got injured with a season-ending ACL injury. I don't know if I guess he's maybe making some plays for Dallas tonight against Philadelphia.
Michael T said, can you guys rehash the scenario of how and why we traded Devon Taves to Colorado? I'm really not clear on that. I think Michael T's
maybe he should have said sarcasm off because, I think we talked about that.
Yep. Nick M saying, if Lamoriello had acquired some scoring punch, the cup would have been there for the taking the last 2 seasons. This team badly needs a sniper.
And you know how I know that? Barry and Lou told us that 3 years ago. And they've just done nothing to rectify that situation. Get what you get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Too busy re-signing guys who are in their 30s to long-term deals just because, they have drinks with the boss. I don't know.
Alexander said, hey, guys, I feel that this team may be able to put it together a little bit of a run and sneak into the playoffs, but that to happen, Villiers needs to step it up. The defense needs to step it up, as well as they could swing a deal together for a sniper. Yeah, about the star and the moons have to align in order for everything to happen for the Islanders to sneak in.
No way I'm making some type of trade to improve this year's team. No freaking way.
You would have to, I'm talking about before the trade deadline, you would have had to rattle off a huge point streak or huge win streak. You'd have to have a 17, 18 game point or win streak, something crazy like we had a few years ago, maybe a 24 game point streak you'd have to have in order for you to make any possible thought of doubling down on this team. Any thought?
We don't play 24 games before the deadline. So that's not happening. I'm not making a deal.
Well, right now in a 3-game point streak, do we play 21 games before?
Here's the thing.
We play 18 games before. If we're on a 21 game point streak, I could maybe justify it.
I'm not throwing good money after bad with this team this year. Not happening. No.
David D said, Brendan Gallagher, anyone. He's 29 years old, a sniper, and he's a perfect fit for our system.
No. Absolutely not. Too small, too old. When's his contract due? I bet sooner than you think. Like I said, I'm not investing anything in this year's team. What has this team showed you to say, yes, we should invest in you? They come out 3/4 dead most of the time when the veterans play. I'm just interested to see what the lineup that Barry rolls out there the next week or so. That's what I want to see. Does he go
Thursday.
back to the same old, or does he give the guys who are actually producing and have sparked this little run, does he give them a shot?
Also worth mentioning, I don't think we mentioned this off the top. We should have. We've got Andy Francis on the show on a Wednesday, and you talked about how long is Brendan Gallagher's contract. Brendan Gallagher still has another 5 years on his contract. No way. I'm sorry, no way.
Yep.
And the point production hasn't been there this year. And really, I mean, you look at the point production, right? In the 35 games he played last year, had 14 goals and 9 assists. He's not even a point a game guy. We don't need to add. I mean, for his cap hit, we don't need to add another guy like that. No freaking way. I agree with you, Grump. No way.
Yep.
He's getting paid $6.5 million about on average a season.
He's better than Anders Lee, though.
Yeah. Well, I'm not so sure about that, Grump.
He's a better player than Anders Lee. Overall, he's a better player than Anders Lee.
Okay.
Overall, he is. Anders Lee only does one thing. One thing.
Fair enough, Grumpy. Fair enough. We're going to keep moving right along, chugging through these comments, Grump.
Moving right along.
Nick D says, Barzal wants to win a trophy or two. Lou has to get some scoring talent around him. Like Grump said, put 13, Kiefer Bellows, and Oliver Wahlstrom together.
Why not?
And then you've got a comment here from Thomas B saying, Chikrin would definitely improve the defense. However, Chikrin alone does not get this team to the finals. Therefore, no reason to make this trade. Yep.
Agreed.
I agree. Nick D, look at that update, Grumpy. He's got the Grumpy's Groupies. Look at that. Yeah. Look at you. Little Grumpy's Groupies face on there. He says, Bavillier would love playing. He will love playing in Arizona. The weather is better than New York. Just kidding, of course.
Another thing you have to worry about Bavillier. Isn't that like Barzell's best friend?
It is.
They got rid of his mentor last offseason. Now you want to get rid of his best friend? Okay.
Who's his mentor, Grump?
Jordan Eberle, right?
What?
Jordan Eberle. They were awful tight.
No, he was not. Okay, Jordan Eberle was not Matt Barzal's mentor.
On the ice, he was.
George P said, "Snow shit the bed." David D said, "How about you swap Pavillier and take back $3 million a bit, or how about you swap Butte? I'm not sure who that is, and take back $3 million of Bailey's contract salary for Brendan Gallagher."
No.
I'm not sure. I mean, no, but Gallagher's tied to such a long-term deal. I have no interest in getting a guy. He's going to be, he's another guy he's got 5 years left on his deal. He's 29 years old now. He'll be like, 30 by the start of next season. You're going to be having a guy whose scoring production has decreased the last 2 seasons until he's 34 years old and he's 5'9". Not interested. It's $6.5 million per. Not interested. No. And then George P said, where does all this magical cap space to sign Dobson come from? We've got $14 million in cap space next season. This offseason, actually. So we've got a few guys to sign back. If you want to make a stab at Forsberg, sure, you sign. You try to piece together a short-term deal for Noah Dobson. All I'm saying is in the long run, Dobson's going to be one of those guys. If you wait and you give him a bridge-type deal for another 3 or 4 years, when you sign him to an extension, he's going to be making $9 or $10 million per.
Yeah, you want to get him when
I mean, over the next 4 years, the cap's going up too. He's going to be probably making 10.5, maybe 11 or 12. Let me correct that, because the cap's going to be going up. And if they sign him to a 4-year extension, let's say that's what they do this offseason, that's going to bring Noah Dobson until he's 25 years old, or 26 years old. I think that brings him an unrestricted free agency.
I think it's 27 years old is unrestricted free agency.
Or right near where unrestricted free agency is. At 26 years old, Noah Dobson, I promise you, he's going to be a consistent 50-point-a-year type guy, 45 to 50-point-a-year type guy. I'm telling you.
Who's your coach? Who's your coach? It's not Barry Trotz.
I don't know. But, he's going to be at 40.
You can't get 50 points a year out of anyone.
Noah Dobson, when he's 24, 25 years old, is going to be consistently every year 40 to 50 points every single season. If they had a more offensive styled system, he'd have 50 plus every year. The guy is that freaking talented.
We don't even get that much point production out of our forwards.
That's how bullish
Barry Trotz, we don't.
I'm telling you, that's how bullish I am on him. And you're going to be paying hand over fist for Noah Dobson.
Well, I'm a big believer in signing guys to long-term deals when they're younger as well. This way you get them at a discount price for the prime of their career.
And
all for
again,
that.
Noah Dobson, even let's say you take him till he's 36. He's a big defenseman. He hasn't had any injury issues. He uses the body a bit. Even if you had to sign him to an 8-year extension by the time he was 26 years old, I still think he'll be performing at the age of 34, but not the same amount he'll be performing at 31 or 30 years old. So
Right.
you're going to get diminished returns towards the end. And then Tommy B says Montreal does not want Bailey. Simple as that. I don't know any teams that want Josh Bailey at this point.
Nobody.
Jeremy F said Dobson is the key to Barzal staying. I was about to say, with Dobson continuing to perform, I think that really helps. It really helps out the team. I think that we've seen it over recent. If we still see the production and the increase from Noah Dobson and the ice time and the opportunity still there, you're going to see the point production from Noah Dobson. And he should get those opportunities. He's earned them.
The coach might even be more important. Maybe he's, I don't want to play for Barry Trotz's system anymore. That's a possibility.
Nick D said, in your merch, I wish they offered hats too. I'd be proud to wear a Grumpy's Groupies hat. I wanted to do hats because I like hats too, but they're all embroidered. So we'd have to look for like a different type, and the material, like a stitch version of this Grumpy's Groupies face was.
The one thing we wanted to do was make sure that we put out quality products.
And that's what took us so long to get these. Like when you feel this stuff right here, you know, like some of your products, they've kind of got it like on the outside where it's easy to like crumble away, like with the wash. This you could just tell based off of the way it's printed on here. This has got a good solid 100, 200 washes, and you're still able to see what the shirt looks like. I mean, this is the merchandise is all I'm going to be wearing on the show every single night. So, I mean, like this is quality merchandise. I got myself some new shirts here, Grump, and I like them. I was about to say, what a film said, P break, TJ chant.
Yeah. And he already went. So there you go.
That was from earlier. So, yeah. Good gracious. Michael T said, so are we buyers or sellers at the deadline? Probably sellers.
Sellers.
Absolutely. And Drew L said, we could be bad for the next 2 to 3 seasons, maybe more, if we don't develop players going forward.
Very true. And you know what? Sometimes you got to take a step back. That's what happens when you're not proactive and you don't see the forest for the trees. We on this podcast saw it. Even though we were getting, to the Final Four, I never felt we were good enough to win a cup. I thought we should have started breaking it down a couple of years ago and retooling. And I thought when Trotz and Lamoriello came in here, the first thing I said to TJ was, I want to blow it up now and do a full rebuild with these 2 guys in charge. That's what I wanted because they had the cachet. Trotz coming off a Stanley Cup win as a coach, and Lou Lamoriello just being, one of the greatest GMs of all time. The Islander fans would have been all behind them to go for a full rebuild. I know they've done it 100 times before, but with these guys in charge, everyone would have said, yes, I'm all in for that.
Okay.
And now we'd be ready to go right now.
You might say that's what they want to do. Okay, I want you to let's just play a game of numbers. How old is Lou Lamoriello?
Old.
Grumpy, you know how old he is?
78, 79.
Lou Lamoriello is 79 years old. Do you think, let's say 4 years ago when he entered at 75, do you think Lou Lamoriello says, I'm 75 years old, let me go ahead and sign up for a rebuild? Hell no, he would not.
Okay, so you're saying that he should just quit now because we have to rebuild now?
I think he still thinks this team has what it takes.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't, though.
I'm just telling you. That's my opinion on what he thinks.
Okay, well, then maybe he's delusional and we need a new GM. That's fine. But here's the thing. I think that if he had started the rebuild when he came in at 75, he absolutely could have done that. And right now, we'd be a force going forward. Look at how long did it take the Rangers to rebuild their team? 3 years. 3 years. And
it helped a lot when you go in the draft lottery. That does help.
Well, you know what? But 3 years is all it took them. Send a letter to the fans. We're dumping everybody and we're rebuilding. 3 years.
Jared Ben says here, do you guys think that Barry Trotz ever wears a cheetah print robe and smokes cigars in his hot tub in his mansion in Garden City, lathering himself with lemon apricot bath bombs?
He absolutely does.
That sounds pretty relaxing, man. I'll tell you, I don't think there's much time for relaxing for him.
And his wife has one of those little buffers that buffs the top of his head.
Makes it extra shiny, right?
Yeah.
Might have to go ahead and get Paige to invest in one of those soon. And Matthew S. said, owners across all sports screw and everyone. Look at the MLB right now.
True.
Yeah. And then, the MLB is a total shit show. Manfred has ruined the sport.
Yep, and we'll be talking about Ken Rosenthal and his plight tomorrow.
Jared Ben says the shirts are crap. A 2.5-year wait for a shirt design. It's a bit underwhelming, particularly the Bitmoji of the Barzal shirt. Yikes! Y'all should have come up with some render designs. You're saying we did. These are all paid for designs. These are all ones that we had people design personally for. So we like the designs. We like them all.
I will say we're not super creative, so we just came up with every kind of designs we could come up with. We're not skilled in that way.
Michael T said Char is a +1 when the Islanders then the Islanders can make the playoffs this year. Well, then the Islanders can make the playoffs this year, Grump.
No.
Probably not. Yeah, I tell you. And then Frank K saying Antonio Brown is now known as a 32nd man, according to a group.
Oh, yeah. I didn't. He brought
Yikes.
someone into the team hotel.
Yeah, I did see that.
Who had COVID. Like I said, this guy's never getting another shot. He's never. And that. So you say I'm all behind my teammates, and you bring in a woman with COVID?
She had COVID? I didn't know that.
She tested positive. She even said afterwards, "Yeah, he snuck me in. I just want to let Tampa Bay know they should have everybody tested for COVID because I got it."
Okay, well, was that before? Did she get tested beforehand? Maybe she didn't know she had COVID beforehand.
Well, she said
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't know. We're getting dumped too down into this here.
Okay.
And then even Luis is making bank the last few days. Oh, that's apparently the girl. It was some OnlyFans thing that she was an OnlyFans star, and she just by sleeping with Antonio Brown has increased her monthly income by 2 or 3 times as much just by having sex with Antonio Brown.
Does that make her a prostitute?
She just sells pictures, I assume, and videos to people online. I don't think it's like that, but it's like an e-girl is what they call them. Who the heck knows?
But she had to bang a guy and then put the pictures up.
Antonio Brown apparently wanted her to film it and post it on her OnlyFans. I was like, well, that's what I heard that. I was like, dude, apparently she said Antonio Brown was insisting on that. I was like, not a good look for AB. That's all I'm going to say. So by trying to air dirty laundry, which was dirty laundry from Bruce Arians and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, AB's dirty laundry got aired, and it looks a lot worse than the other dirty laundry, man. That dirty laundry is putrid. What a film said, Jared Ben, who would win in a fight? You or TJ? Oh, no, I don't mind. He's not riding me. He's not riding me. I don't mind at all. Everything is always fun. It's all on fun and games. That's all I'm going to say. Frank K said, smart chick. And then what a film said, TJ's a softie. Yeah, I'm not fighting anybody. Tommy B says here, I told y'all a few weeks ago, trade Mayfield if we're not in playoff contention at deadline. Yep, we 100% agree. Yep, no doubt about it. We should. And then Jared Ben said, Grumpy, I have a really good idea for a crossover. My 600-pound life and Naked and Afraid. Take 600-pound people and throw them in the woods in extreme environment for 30 days. Baked. Oh, no, they die. I mean, like they couldn't move around. They have a tough time moving around with my 600.
Yeah, that'd be tough. There's no refrigerators around. They'd really struggle.
30 days naked. Yeah. Oh man. Would it be a hit? You'd have too many of the people die on the show. So no, I don't think so. It'd be canceled. You wouldn't be able to actually produce any content.
It would be one of those, you'd have to watch it because it's like a train wreck.
They would die, Grumpy. 600-pound individuals aren't like, yeah, let me go ahead and move around and hunt down my rabbit or go fishing. They're like, how can I make it to the trash can? How can I take out the trash this week? How can I go to the mailbox? How can I get the food sent to me? They have people pick them up food from the grocery store.
Maybe they could do like with those.
You think they're going to be out there naked and afraid, hunting down rabbits and foraging for mushrooms? No, they have to have the cameraman would have to have a Twinkie supply for them. Come on.
Maybe they could do it. Maybe they could do what they do with like those whales that come up on shore. They could just have people, pour water on them and, scrub up their skin and stuff so that they could survive. Or feed them.
Have you ever seen sometimes how people have to? I watch, unfortunately, some of those.
I don't watch that stuff.
It's hard to watch. Like people go out in like a huge. They don't fit in bathtubs most time, so they go out in like a pig trough. And they have somebody they fill up with water and they just literally take it over and they put it under like their flaps. I don't want to talk about it.
All right. Thanks for the graphic.
I've ruined my appetite. I haven't eaten dinner yet, and I'm not eating dinner.
Well, all right. Just go to the next comment.
Mosifa said the Blues wanted Mayfield before the season started.
They can have him. First round pick is all it takes.
When is Chara going to be on the Grumpy's couch, Grump?
He should be here now.
Oh man. And the Seahawks, Wilson. Are the Seahawks playing tonight too?
I don't think so.
I don't know. The games, when they start playing NFL games on Saturday, it just always throws me for a loop at the end of the year.
Toronto would be a good fit for him. I'd have no problem trading him to Toronto. I think he would be good for Toronto.
The Chiefs played today, and then the Cowboys are playing the Eagles. Okay.
The Chiefs, Denver wind up crapping themselves at the end. They turned the ball over in the red zone for an 80-something yard touchdown return, which cost them the game.
Michael T said, yeah, Toronto would be a good fit. I'd be happy to take a first rounder from Mayfield. Yeah.
I would. Like I said, it's not about, I'm not trading him to Toronto. Yeah, if that's the best you can get, if you get a first round pick, why not? I'd love to have 3 or 4 first round draft picks this year.
Okay. Scott Mayfield, if he traded to Toronto, is going to go for much more than a first round pick.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying.
Here's the thing. Scott Mayfield, my asking price, bare minimum, is a first and a second. If you're trading, if you're a true seller, he's got one more year at $1.5 million per. And if you're a team that has a playoff window open, I can promise you a top 4 defenseman this year for the playoff run for $1.4 million. And next year, you'll have that additional player for $1.4 million for a top 4 defenseman, a first and a second, bare minimum.
All right, calm down. I want you to get all worked up over there.
If they're offering me a first, I'm laughing them away. Say, call me back when you want to actually talk.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Jared Ben said, boys, do you remember when you both, particularly Grump last year, said that last season would be a success if the Islanders made it as far or even a game further than they did the year before? In retrospect, last year was a success or failure? I thought last season was
a success. I guess
you make the Eastern Conference Finals, even though you don't win the Cup. I still look at that as a successful year.
Yeah, it was a success. Last year was a success.
This year has been an utter failure so far in those standards, though.
But the whole thing was, if you were a little bit proactive and not reactive with your signings, you could have maybe got that little extra something to get you over the hump against Tampa. I never thought we were going to beat Tampa.
What a film saying here. Pavillier could be traded. Montreal would be a nice fit. Yeah, he's from that Quebec area, I believe. So hey, if he's from that French speaking area, I was about to say, hey,
he's 24 years old. I mean, I'd much rather get rid of older guys than younger guys.
I'm not sure that Montreal, with the rebuild that they have going on, would want to give away picks or even young prospects for a guy like Anthony Pavillier, a guy who's struggling, top 9 forward. I'm not sure they're interested in that.
Yeah. I mean, he'd probably be a top 6 forward for them, but it is what it is.
SP said, and Boston just won again. To anybody who thinks that we still have a shot, we don't.
And they beat Tampa today. So that's a good win for them.
I tell you.
They jumped on Tampa early today.
Yikes. Yeah. And then what a film saying, that's a great point. We're coming off 2 great seasons under the structure. Not time to give up yet, boys.
I love Woody.
Mm-hmm.
He is such a fan. Never gives up. He's never say die.
Yep. He's definitely part of the Islanders Never Say That group. Nander F says, is Chara? I guess no question was included, but Eve L says here, Bridgeport wins 5-1 against the Charlotte Checkers.
Oh, I could have went to see that game today.
Well, we wouldn't have been able to do the podcast then. Michael T said, yeah, Colorado just beat Toronto in overtime.
Toronto was up 3-1 after 1.
Taves with the winner.
What a shocker. Even better.
Oh, man.
Let's run through that again.
Ugh. The Leafs boot a 4-1 lead.
4-1.
4-1 says Hunter H. Wow. I'll tell you. Yeah. It was a great game, the Leafs and the Avalanche. Oh, man.
A little bit of defense. Toronto, maybe if they had Scott Mayfield up there, they would have won that game. He played a lot of minutes for them, for certain.
I'm telling you, absolutely. I mean, Jack Campbell's been fantastic this year. Add a little defensive help, and I think you're in good shot. Yeah. And then Mario's saying here, what has Lambert done that makes people think that he could be a good head coach? The Caps went with Reardon. How did that work out for him? Again, I wouldn't say just because the Caps went with Reardon, they made the right choice. Like Reardon's a better coach than Lambert. What was it back on the Islanders? Who the hell did they stick with? They stuck with Capuano, and we had who else? Dan Bilesman on staff. We had other coaches on staff that were much more successful NHL coaches, and we went the worst of the bunch.
Yep.
So, and again, like we didn't have maybe the pieces that Pittsburgh did, but still, Disco Dan was a hell of a better coach.
Disco Dan Bilesma.
That's what they used to call him in Pittsburgh.
I know they did.
Disco Dan. So Disco Dan was still a hell of a lot better coach than Jack Capuano, Fred Flintstone. But I don't know what makes me think coach. I couldn't tell you. I think that's one of those things where I think know in a room whether he can coach or not, and you don't get to see too much of what he wants to do because I think everything is Barry. So does he have the same ideology as Barry? Is he a guy who's a slavish devotion to the defensive system? I would tend to think maybe not, but maybe he does.
I'll tell you what, we were more fun to watch when Lambert was coaching. Maybe it's just because the young guys were playing.
Maybe it was just the young guys, and we're attributing the young guys playing to Lane Lambert just because Barry's been out for a bit. But maybe Lambert loves playing vets too. Don't know.
Let's just say one thing. Truthfully, watching the Islanders when the veterans are in there, it's kind of a slog to watch them play most of the time.
You got to be winning. Hey, it's tough to watch unless the Islanders are winning.
It's tough watching them lose like
games.
That. Tough.
Yeah. And then Jerben said, I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I really hope Evander Kane can revitalize his career. I know he struggled with a lot of personal stuff, but he's a great player. I do too. I never want to see a player get kicked out. It's sort of the same reason why I always have a soft spot in my heart for Josh Hosang. Anytime a player struggles, there's always players that struggle with personal things. And I always want to see them be able to overcome those to make it. I mean, like all these players in their professional field, they all overcome struggles as a player. If they have personal issues, I want to see them overcome those personal issues too. It's about the fight. It's about, like the struggle that makes sports so entertaining to watch. People overcoming, hindrances in their way.
Yeah, I don't think anyone doesn't hope that, first of all, he gets his personal life straightened out. That's more important than playing hockey.
Jerben says here, maybe he can have a Robin Leonard-esque comeback story and iron out his personal life stuff. I certainly hope so. I do too.
Yeah, why not?
And then, we've got here, Drew L said, why did Grump look like Voldemort when he raved about the caller? Your nose shrunk and condensed together.
I don't know. I don't remember that.
I don't either. Oh man. Joe H saying here, wow, this caller's embarrassment. I tell you, he's not an embarrassment. That's why I was saying, guys, I said he's just being hyperbolic. Fans are allowed.
Oh, okay. Talking about the Paul.
Yeah, I like Paul.
Yeah,
I'm about to say, fans want to see team success. I get it. I wouldn't be saying, hey, he's joking around. He's being hyperbolic. That's why I feel like I had to mention that to people because people, for whatever reason, are going to take what he said at face value. I don't take it at face value. Guess what? There was a little bit of, there's sarcasm in there and there's a little bit of hyperbole in that. That's why he's going over the top.
I'm sure. I just didn't think that needed to be explained.
Well, it does. So Paul O.C. said here, guys, do you realize we're 12 points behind Boston for the last playoff spot? But we do have 3 games in hand. We won't make it. We should sell in March.
Yes, correct. And I think Boston's just going to get better. Duke Rask is coming back.
Matthew said that guy Paul needs to set up. No, he's hey man, he's an enamored fan. I wouldn't say
people say that. Okay, people say that about me all the time too. I need whatever.
You need to be put away in a mental institution. Frank K said, too many teams to pass. I've accepted that they're not making the playoffs. I'm just scouting out the younger guys at this point.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That's how we as Islander fans live for a long, long time.
Brandon Fry says here, Capitals scored on themselves on a delayed penalty.
Hey, they know how to score, whether it's against themselves or against the other team.
Thomas B said, forget about changing Trotz. Any change should begin with Lou Lamoriello.
No.
Brian B says, I think Lou also has to go before he does more damage.
I think Lou does whatever the coaches. I think he and the coach have a vision. And if the coach says this is what he wants, I think Lou does his best to get what the coach wants. That's what I think how it works.
What a film said, do you guys think that Edmonton would trade Connor McDavid for our entire team?
Yes, I think they would.
If they could make that fit into the
cap. Our entire team, they'd have a solid defense. Barzal would have
fantastic netminder and Matt Barzal. Yeah.
Yeah, they would definitely do that.
I would too.
and we'd have Connor McDavid, and Barry would just make him stay in his own zone the whole day.
Michael T said, if we can get a first round pick for Varlamov, I think it's a must. It's a must that you do it. I think so too.
Yes.
And then SP said, I just saw an article titled, would the Islanders forward Oliver Wahlstrom benefit with more ice time? Honestly, that's the actual article title. Who the hell would be asking that? Again, I don't know. I don't read any of these articles. I have no idea where this article came from, none whatsoever, and I don't really care where it came from. That being said, yeah, it's a no-brainer. What are you just going to pontificate on obvious things? I mean, like, are most of the readers of that site where it's just like, oh, I maybe these are fans who kind of check in and watch the Islanders once every 5 games, and I don't really know. For them, I'm sure it does help, but for true blood Islander fans, they all know Oliver Wahlstrom would excel with more ice time.
Click, 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 click.
Clickbait. I understand.
Clickbait.
Yep. Tommy B. And again, we have no idea where the article's from. Tommy B said, no on Evander Kane. No way, San Jose.
That was
I like it. I like it.
That's emphatic. No.
Yeah. No way, Canseco. Hey man, as a PTO, I'm all in. Wahlstrom is still green. His defensive play needs work, but I guess you can't work on it if you're not playing enough. Good point, Woody. Good point.
What does he do? He scores goals. What does this team need to do? Score goals. He's not defensively inept. But he's not Bob Gainey either. Should not be expected to be Bob Gainey. He's a goal scorer.
Yeah.
Just so stupid. I hate.
Well, here's the thing. He will. I think it's a good point, right? I expect guys to get better defensively if you don't play enough actual ice minutes while you're playing his situations and scenarios on.
But seriously, that's the way Barry thinks. He's like, well, geez, if he's not Bob Gainey back there, I don't care if he scores. It's not what we want to do. That's just dumb thinking. It just is. You have to live with. He was not drafted to play defense. He was drafted to shoot the puck, put pucks in the net. That's what he's been drafted for. Don't try to. His skill set is what it is. You fit your system around the skill sets of the players, and you don't draft players just to fit your crappy ass system because that ain't working.
Anthony R said, "I agree with you about Kane, but I'm telling you, a playoff team will sign him for the rest of the year." I don't know what's going to happen with Kane. I don't think anybody's going to take a risk on him this season. I think that, especially if you're a playoff team, unless like you lose a guy after the trade deadline, right? You say, hey, we didn't need to make too many additions. We added a defensive piece, and we lose a fantastic left winger after the trade deadline. There's nothing we can do to, we don't have enough organizational depth, and now we're going to be really short of left-handed defensemen. That would be the only time I'd see Evander Kane being looked at. But I think people would rather look for the trade deadline than bringing in a guy who's got a lot of question marks around him right now.
No, he's not getting picked up.
We can promise you he'll never be ever picked up by Winnipeg. He'll never ever be picked up by San Jose again, and he'll never ever be picked up by the Buffalo Sabres, right? All those bridges are burned of those 3 organizations.
He's not getting signed anywhere.
Okay. And then Tommy B says, I think Kane should be a regular on a TJ and the Grumpy Old Man show. Hey man, if he's looking for a little bit of something, we'll be more than happy to have him on this show.
Well, he'd fit around with the Draftkings motif. He could tell you what to bet, how to bet. Exactly.
He can give us a little bit more of an in-depth breakdown.
Right. Yeah.
And then Anthony R said, yeah, bad teammate. Isn't that, wasn't that Tony D'Angelo had that rep for being a bad teammate, being a bad guy? Michael T said he's a bad man.
Bad man.
Oh, man. What a film
I'm
said.
a bad man. That was Johnny B. Bad.
Lee for Kane, right? TJ, yeah, what a film's Grumpy Old Man mischaracterizes it all the time.
No. We're not getting into today.
We're not hashing this up. It's too late.
It's way too late in the podcast to talk about today. That's a podcast on its own.
Can we just sell at the deadline? Clutter should be on the bus out of town now. You should definitely sell Clutterbuck too.
Yep.
Absolutely. He'll get something. Don't assume Clutterbuck won't be back. Clutterbuck's had a very good season. I do want
Tommy. You want to see me lose my mind? Let's sign Cal Clutterbuck back to a 3 or 4 year deal at 33, 34, whatever, however many old he is.
34 years old.
No.
So
No.
we're gonna have a 35 or 36-year-old fourth liner. I'm sorry. I know he's played well this year. Cal Clutterbuck, I'm sorry. We can't have Cal.
He's too
Please let
old.
Cal go.
If you want to sign him back 1 year vet minimum, that's it. That's all fourth liners deserve. Matt Martin, you want it to come back? Not. Don't make him the $6 million man. 1 year, $750K. That's it. That's it. If you want to come back, otherwise, see you later.
And then we got a comment here from Anthony R. and says, unless Trotz is gone, and even Lou, to be honest, there's no way that Lee, Bailey, Nelson, or Jean-Gabriel Pajot go. I agree with you, Grump. It's hopeless.
Yeah, I mean, we just need to have a change in philosophy. That's the biggest thing.
Martin
Change
has
philosophy.
been bad for certain. He has, and also Zizekas has struggled. Yeah.
They all suck. Except for Clutterbuck's been okay on that fourth line. Other than that,
I would rather have a line of Zarnak, Ross Johnston, and Cal Clutterbuck out there on the ice, and we're paying Matt Martin $1.5 million for the next 2 seasons after this one. Again, you can always release him at that point, but it's still like unless you do, and unless you waive him, you're paying Matt Martin $1.5 million for the next 2 years, and in Casey Zizekas $2.5 million for the next 5. Not good management. Management of funds.
As soon as we found out what that, I mean, I was saying Eric Howell, right? 2 years, $2.1 million. That's what he signed for in Boston. That's what I would have offered Casey Zizekas. If he didn't want it, see you later. If you get more than that, Casey, more power to you.
What a film said Bavillier and Varlamov might be on the trade block.
That's okay.
I was about to say, I neither of those guys would be like guys I'd say, no, I'm never moving. But I'm Bavillier, if you're selling Bavillier, I feel like you're going to get the lowest value for him now. Hold on to him. His value can't go much lower than what it is now. I really don't think it can. I don't think he's underneath what a third line scorer is. And that's what his value is at the moment. I'd hold on to him, and maybe he could show a glimpse of something or a reason for somebody to think that maybe he could make his way into a top 6, and that's when you sell him.
Yeah, but you thought Hosang's value couldn't get any lower every single year. We kept on saying that if you want to move him. They never did. And he wound up just getting waived. I mean, no one signed him. I don't know what he's doing with the Marlies, but I bet it's better than
17 points in 20 some odd games, 10 goals.
No, there you
if I
go.
recall correctly. I mean, he hasn't been lighting it up, but he's been putting up points.
10 goals. I'd lead this team in scoring.
Okay, it's in the A.
I know.
I was about to say, Grumpy. So, let me pull up exactly. 23 games played, 10 goals, 7 assists. So 17 points in 23 games played in the A.
Okay.
And then Paulo C said Boston would never pay Palmieri that salary. That's why Boston would never trade for him. Boston knows how to pay their players. Just look at the team salary. Boston did some questionable shit this offseason. When they signed Linus Ullmark, I'm like, why?
Because they didn't know if Rask was going to be able to come back.
Right. Okay, they knew Rask was coming back.
They did not. They didn't know if Rask was going to retire or what he was going to do. They did not. So
you signed Linus Ullmark to a 4-year deal. That was your defense for Rask. You had Jeremy Swayman. You go find yourself a stopgap goalie, a 1A, 1B tandem. Jeremy Swayman's a damn good netminder.
Here's the thing: you can always move goalies.
I'm just saying, Linus Ullmark was not the answer, and they signed him to a 4-year deal.
Okay, but they know how. Okay, their salary. They know how to handle the salary cap. Their best players get paid. They have a bunch of garbage down at the bottom, but they don't get paid anything. You don't see them overpaying their fourth line and third line. They just don't do it. They move those guys out when they're due for a raise. They know how to draft. They draft Boston-type players.
Boston-type players. Right, Grump? Boston.
Right.
Anyway, that being said, moving right along, Palmieri buyout numbers are very doable. It's a dead cap hit of $1.6 million.
For what, 6 years, though?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked into the guy out yet, so I couldn't speak on it. Nick D said, let the reality be set. We're not making the playoffs, period. I think this team is tired of the Barry Trotz system.
I think it's that the team can't play the Barry Trotz system anymore because they're just older and they can't do it anymore physically. Tough system to play. Game in, game out, day after day.
Tony D saying, yep, looks like the Rangers had a lot of issues from the start. He had the big one that last season. Yeah, he had that one big season. What a film saying here. Russians do crazy things to young players. Tretiak had both of his knees broken and operated on so that he could go down and get back up better. Maybe Ovechkin is part robot. Oh, I didn't know that about Tretiak. I know they did a lot of crazy stuff in training, and like they were part of the, they were part of the army, the Red Army, but in no means they actually part of the army.
Yeah, I didn't know it. I never heard that.
And then Mario said people killed Hosang for being a turnover machine. Wait till they look at Ratu.
See,
I don't mind if we turn the puck over all that much in neutral zone, as long as we're able to, hey, I could see you occasionally take it from end to end, and I see a moment of brilliance to where sometimes you turn over, but sometimes you take the game in your hand and you individually score for us.
there's risk reward, right? I mean, to me, Hosang never got a legitimate shot to play here. That was, and I don't know if he could have played here. The thing that always bothered me, and the thing that bothers me over and over and over again, is never giving the young guy a legitimate shot to show what he can do. That's my issue. I'm not saying that they're right or wrong on that judgment, but they never gave him a shot.
Vinny Smith, the mighty traffic cone, says, hey guys, biggest issue with this team is signing the fourth line. Now, where to move the dead weight on this team?
We got a lot of dead wood. It's littered up on our forward group, littered with dead wood. Just about everybody. There's maybe five forwards who I consider, okay, they're worth keeping. Maybe a little bit more than 5. Ross Johnston I'd keep. So we got Johnston. Pajot I would keep just for another year to see how he is. Barzell, Bavillier, Wallstrom, Bellows. That's it. 6 guys. 6 guys. Everybody else can go.
Tommy B said Noah Dobson won't get a 4-year deal. I assume they're probably going to give him a 2 or 3 year, and they're still going to have him under restricted free agency. Then they're going to sign him to an 8-year extension. I'm just saying, if I'm the Islanders and you have that cap space, sign him to an 8-year, $7 million per. I'm telling you, the production you're going to see out of a guy like that, unreal.
I don't think Lou is proactive like that, though.
Like Robin Salo is not going to get a huge deal. That's a guy you could sign to a 2 or 3 year extension, maybe 1.5, 2 million per, because he hasn't been given much ice time this year yet in the NHL. You don't really know all that much what you have into him. And again, even if he comes out and starts playing well at the end of the season, I don't think he's going to build enough momentum and traction to say, hey, I warrant a larger contract. You're going to get him on the cheap. You'll get Kiefer Bellows. Again, if you choose to resign him and not trade him away, you're going to get Kiefer Bellows on the cheap. Again, he's performed a bit, but he doesn't have a long track record. You're going to get him on the cheap. You've got cap space. I would no problem at all re-signing Noah Dobson to a long-term deal, being proactive about it. It's going to pay benefits long-term.
True.
How about we ask Bailey to be a real team player and quit, says Wood else.
He's not that much of a team guy.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like with Anders Lee, he's not going to retire when, he's not going to take less money either. And I don't blame him. Hey, if you earn that contract, then you're going to get paid it. I take the money if you can. Paulo C said, why do we want to get rid of younger players like Bavillier? Guys worry about getting rid of older players. We've got a ton of those.
Yeah, I don't want to get rid of anybody, any of the young guys. The old guys are all on the block, every one of them. And if Pajot had to go too, I'd be willing to move him. I know he's 29, but for the right price, everybody's available.
What a film saying nobody's going to want to take the players we want to get rid of.
That's true.
And Nick D says here, from here on out, the Islanders should send down all vets and play the youth.
True.
Yep. And then what a film saying, the biggest problem that we signed too many guys to these long-term contracts. What we've been saying for the last 2 or 3 seasons, it's coming through. Everybody sees the same way we do now. We were the only people shouting on top of the mountains for that. And then, and we can only sign players with some value. Maybe Pajot gets some interest, but Palmieri is going to be stuck here.
I remember my son sending the question to Arthur Staple. And the question was, when they were re-signing Anders Lee, he says, why would you re-sign Anders Lee? He's not worth that. And he's like, well, it would have been a bad look losing your captain 2 years in a row. My response to that is, I don't give a shit what it looks like. What's the right move? The right move was not re-signing him to that deal and using that money somewhere else. I don't care how it looked if you lost a captain 2 years in a row. It was so dumb. We do a lot of dumb things.
Nick D said, wish you guys love and laughter. I'll be watching you guys on Wednesday over at AEW. Well, Nick D, also make sure to check out the TJ and the Grumpy Old Man show. That's tomorrow 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to be covering the national championship game or the college football finals on Monday evening. That's going to be a fun game to cover, Grump. Ooh, baby. Another matchup of the SEC championship game. Georgia against Alabama, Grump. Hopefully we're in for a treat. Yeah.
NCAA got what they wanted. They made sure they finagled those playoff rankings to get that.
Well, hey, it's going to result in a better finals, so
That's true.
that's fine. What a film said. Trotz has a son with Down syndrome. I didn't know that, and I think that he's a really good dad, and I believe he can pull this off. I'm sure he learns a lot from challenging of having a kid with special needs. Go Barry.
There's Waterman. He's the best.
And then Tommy B said, TJ and Grumpy Old Man, hope you guys have a great 2022 from the coach. Great job, gents. Thanks there, Coach Tommy B. Coach Tommy B. Coach Tommy Baffy's Corner. Thanks for tuning in, Coach Tommy B. Best of always luck there for you in 2022. Man, it's only the first week of 2022. That's nuts. Mario said, whoa. Mario said, Roman Yossi, best offensive season under Trotz in 2013-14 was when he scored 13 goals, had 27 assists, 40 points. The following season, 2014-15, after Trotz was gone, Roman Yossi had 15 goals and 40 assists with 55 points. When Trotz went to Washington, John Carlson scored 55 points. And then Carlson scored 39 and 37 the following two seasons. In the Stanley Cup year, John Carlson scored 68 points, but that was because McClellan had put Trotz on notice.
That's right.
I don't see how Dobson will be able to score 40, 50 points under Trotz. I don't think Trotz is going to be here in 3 or 4 seasons. I really don't. When you have the general manager change, I'm not sure they're just saying, hey, let's keep it the same exact head coach.
And it's why I say no unrestricted free agents are going to come to play for us.
Do you see unless we make drastic moves here this offseason to change it up, if we continue with the same exact structure and the same exact vets, do you see us improving next season?
No,
I don't. And
nope.
I mean, if you don't make the playoffs in 2 years in a row after making the East Conference Finals and your coach's contract is up, I don't see why you resign him. Thanks for getting us to where you could. We appreciate again the
stabilize the franchise. You stabilize the franchise. You brought us respectability. We want to go in a different direction now. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yep, absolutely.
But Washington did, and he knew. Like I said, Trotz knew his last year was his last year in Washington.
Wins the cup.
They did want him back.
What a film saying, do you guys miss Travis Hamonic? Oh, he's a fan favorite. I miss him as a guy, but not necessarily too much as a player. Travis Hamonic, we've got better defense core than with Hammer had. So what we had with the Hammer. So yeah. What did we get back in return for Travis Hamonic? Let's look back in the day of that.
Some picks. We got picks back.
What we got for Travis Hamonic. I thought, okay, we got a first round pick. Hold on.
And a third, first and third.
And 2 second-round picks.
Okay, first.
Holy shit. We think about that. We gave up a first-round pick in 2 seconds.
That's Garth Snow making that deal. Garth Snow never made a deal he didn't win. Never. Never freaking ever. He did not make a whole lot of deals, but every deal he made, he won. Every single trade. Every trade.
It wound up being the trade that we gave up, Travis Hamonic. We wound up getting the 12th overall pick in the 2018 draft, which wound up being Noah Dobson. We wound up getting the 43rd overall pick in the 2018 draft, and wound up getting the 57th overall pick in the 2019 draft.
Garth Snow never made a trade he didn't win.
We got 2 seconds for freaking Devon Taves, and we got a first and 2 seconds for Travis Hamonic. Let that shit sink in, guys.
Since he's been an Islander, Lou Lamoriello has never made a trade that he's won.
I don't know.
I'm just telling you.
He's overpaid a lot of guys.
Garth Snow would never make a deal. I remember just saying, man, why won't this guy ever make a deal? But whenever, and I even talked about it. He never made a trade unless he killed somebody. And he killed in every trade he ever made. Except for
Vanek.
Moving Vanek. That's right.
That's the only one he lost because he was like, hey, I need to try to make another claim as to why, hey, Johnny, hey, we're going to keep you here, Vanek. You're going to be with John Tavares. Didn't work out so well. Didn't work out. James F said, a major game Sunday for the Silver and Black, Grumpy. Do the Raiders win?
Man, they play the Chargers. I think the Chargers are going to win. I just do. Whoever wins that game, okay, here's the playoff scenario. Indianapolis, Jacksonville. Indianapolis wins, they're in. If they tie and then both the Raiders, they're not going to tie. Indianapolis is going to be in. So whoever wins, the Raiders, Chargers game is going to make the playoffs. The loser's sitting at home. It's just that plain and simple.
Policy said, "Yep, we can't just have one first round pick for Mayfield if we trade him to Toronto because we won't get a top first rounder. That's for certain.
Yeah, I mean,
It's gotta be first and second bare minimum asking price.
Yeah,
If it's not
and
that,
you can get that for him. You can get that for him
for
for
certain.
certain.
Yep, absolutely. First round exit for both teams is what he says there. Oh goodness,
Very
But James-
possible.
Yep, Dallas and Eagles. James F said, "Guys, I got rid of my back problem and my sciatic issue yesterday. I was walking my RTE and I slipped and fell. All my weight on my arm and it landed on the ground on my chest. Now my chest is coming.
Oh, damn, man.
James. Oof.
James had some tough times recently.
I'm about to say you
better.
got to still make it to your first Islander game too this year.
Get better, buddy. Get better.
Absolutely, James. And then Tommy B said, "Yeah, Clutterbuck will be 35. Definitely could be traded, but they could bring him back on a cheap 1 or 2 year deal.
Why?
Yeah, I don't see the need to have him back.
Why? Play a young guy.
Who's to say Cal Clutterbuck won't retire either? Remember, he doesn't have feeling in two of his 5 fingers on one hand, and he's gonna be 35 years old. Does he want to keep playing? I don't know. And then a Swerve 951 said, "Hey, we beat the Caps for you."
Good for Minnesota.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Thanks.
love Swerve's little
With
pick.
7 of our regulars out.
Yeah, they got a whole bunch of guys out with COVID too. I don't think they're crying about it.
And
I
Brian
don't
B.
hear a whole bunch. The only team that really cried about it was the Islanders. Didn't hear anybody else crying.
Mario says Lou Lamoriello just re-signed Casey Cizikas and Matt Martin, and he protected Cal Clutterbuck and Martin because he felt that he needed them to keep the precious fourth line together. Do you really think that he would let Cal Clutterbuck walk now?
Why would you protect 2 fourth liners? It's just so dumb. It's just so stupid. I don't understand it. You protect talent, not identity. And here's the thing, your identity sucks if that's your identity now. They can't play. Clutterbuck can. Martin can't. He couldn't play last year either. Casey can't play. Just dumb.
Policy said, Grumpy, you're absolutely right now about Wallstrom. You can't be more right about what you said. He's a goal scorer, not a grinder.
Yeah, don't try to turn him into something he's not. I hate when coaches do that. It just tells me, guess what? They're not really good coaches. That's what it tells me.
What a film saying Tuukka Rask is done same as Fleury, Marc-Andre Fleury. They're old and have had significant injuries. Varlamov is better than Fleury.
I don't know.
I'm taking him 1 year. I'm probably taking Fleury. That being said, if I'm Edmonton, you don't have a goalie in the pipeline. You don't at the moment. I would say, hey, I need a guy who's still got a few years left. Seriously, after this season, how many more years of production do you think you have left out of Fleury? What is he, 38 years old?
I think 37, something like
37 will be 38 after this time period. I mean, you're getting diminishing returns. 38 and 39-year-old goalies don't have resurgences. They don't have bounce back years. I know he just won the Vezina at 37 or 36. I don't think you could expect those type of production going forward from him. He's towards the tail end, man.
He's definitely towards the tail end. I mean, Luongo was really good till he was 40. I mean, you're only talking about a couple of years and you'd get somebody else.
I thought Luongo retired when he was like 38, 39.
No, he played like till he was like 40. He went back to Florida.
Luongo was a hell of a netminder. Yeah, he played last year. He played until he was 39. But in the 39, he had an 8.99. At 38, he had a 9.29 save percentage.
Pretty good.
So right when 39 hit, ding, that's when it all turned downhill. But yeah, Tuukka Rask, he's still kind of Tuukka Rask. What is he, like 33, 34? I mean, Varlamov hasn't had the injury issues like Tuukka Rask has. I'd say that, and again, Tuukka Rask has already signed back with the Bruins. He was going to be
he signed a PTO with their farm team.
Okay,
so he will be back. I'm just saying that he is not signed back with the Bruins yet. He signed a PTO with Phoenix. I'm sorry, with Providence earlier this week.
Gotcha, Grumpy. Gotcha. Also, Paulo C says here, I would not touch Sorokin and our top 4 defense, but our older forwards, get rid of them. Yes, TJ. Nelson too.
If you get a first and a second round pick for Nelson, would you trade him?
Okay, I'd have to be more than that.
For Brock freaking Nelson?
Yes.
No.
He at $5 million per. Dude, he's got 4 more years.
He's 6 million per.
6 million per. 6 million per. He's got 4 more years at 6 million per. Cap certainty. He's a second line center across. He's a ubiquitous second line center across the NHL. Yes, he is.
He's not.
Yes,
He's not.
Unless you're not trading him to a team like Tampa. You're not trading him to a top tier team like that. They have to have some cap space. You're trading him to a team that's on the cusp, on the precipice.
Yeah, okay.
Precipice.
Here's the thing: if it's me and somebody asks me, offers me a first and a second for him, he's moving. It gives you more money. It gives you flexibility to do other things.
What a film
it gets rid of forwards off your team.
You will never freaking keep Matt Barzal if you say, hey, we trade away Brock Nelson, we trade away this guy, that guy, another. We have to be able to field a competitive team if we want to keep Matt Barzal.
Unless you want to picking up some younger guys who can put the puck in the net.
So your idea is to say, hey, we're going to go for a rebuild. We're going to go collect 10 first-round picks in this year's draft, Matt Barzal. Don't worry. We might not be good now, but wait 3 or 4 years when they start entering their 21s, 22s, and then that's when we're really going to be good.
You could still
wait
make
another
trades.
3 or 4 years.
You could still try to make trades for other players or start to sign free agents. Here's the thing. It's not going to happen if Barry Trotz is here, but if he's gone.
It's not happening, Grump. What a film saying here. My biggest concern is losing Matt Barzal. You guys keep bringing up, and it makes sense. Barzal needs to be able to play offense. You know the numbers mean something to him. Let him fly.
True.
Yep. And if we lose Matt Barzal, I'd be devastated. Yes, he would set the franchise back definitely more than losing John Tavares. He would set the franchise back an immense amount. That kid is so special, so special.
He's the only talented offensive. Okay, I'm going to leave Wallstrom out. But he's without a doubt the most talented player we have on the team by far.
What a film saying, Maddie B, if you're listening, my daughter's pretty, the same age and would marry you. Get back to me. Just go ahead and contact us and we'll contact Woodard. We'll get you in touch, Maddie B. Don't you worry. Paulo C said, yes, Trotz should make Barzal fly, but fly with who? With Bailey and Parise.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Mario said the pick Snow got for Hamonic wound up becoming Ruslan Ishikov, who's a bad selection, Samuel Bolduc, and Noah Dobson.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a good haul for him. One guy definitely turned out, and another one possibly can.
Clutterbuck's playing so well this year because he wants a contract, Michael T says. Maybe.
That's fine.
Maybe
trade him. Maybe you get yourself a 3rd-round pick for him.
Mario said 2 days after trading Travis Hamonic, Snow made the Everly deal.
That worked out as well.
Yeah. Hugely in our favor.
Yep.
Yep, exactly. Let him fly with Wallstrom and Bellows, says What a Films. If you have to put Barzal, Wallstrom, and Bellows on the second line, if that makes you feel better, Barry, put Nelson, Lee, and Bailey on the first line.
Yeah.
And the sad thing about Fleury, they sent him to Chicago to end a great career. Varlamov's only 33.
Yep.
I think Fleury is one of the NHL's great goalies, but he can't move like he needs to. He just turned 37.
Yeah, and he's extremely well liked. He'll make the Hall of Fame.
Once he got the cup, he won a few cups. He won a few cups. And once he got the Vezina is what I meant. That's like, hey, now he's got the personal accolades. Look at this Vezina.
Yep.
Absolutely, Grump. Well, let me ask you this. We're towards the tail end of today's podcast. What do you want to say before we wrap things up?
I just want to say love and laughter to everyone who listens, and even those who don't, from TJ and the Grumpy Old Man.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be going live tomorrow during the TJ and the Grumpy Old Man show. We'll be talking about everything around the world of sports. And then on Monday, we're going to be covering the college football finals. That's going to be a lot of fun. I promise you that's going to be a fun show. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, like on Facebook, follow on Twitter. And you can find the TJ and the Grumpy Old Man show in the link in the description below. And if you're a first-time listener to this show, make sure you stick around a while. We invite you to come back and follow us on Twitter, like on Facebook, and subscribe on YouTube. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you soon. Thank you, Grumpy Old Man.